Good evening. I'd like to call the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting for Tuesday, June 17th, 2025 to order. The land acknowledgement was already read earlier tonight. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof? Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Plummer? All in favor? Approved. We have some minutes that have been circulated for the Parks and Recreation Committee for May 20th. Can I have a motion? Councillor Purcell, Councillor Jack, no. All in favor? Approved. Any business arising from those minutes? Okay. We have first up a presentation, and the presentation is on the Strong Mayor Powers Overview by Mr. John Mascarin, partner, certified specialist in municipal law, local government, and land use planning and development of Aird and Burles. And welcome, Mr. Mascarin, to Pembroke City Council, and I will let you take it away.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good evening and to you and to the members of the committee. I do have a PowerPoint presentation on the Strong Mayor Powers, and if I could, I would like to share my screen now and put it up on the slide deck, if that's all right.
Go ahead.
It looks like it is up right now.
It is up. It is up.
Terrific. So I will, without further ado, thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you this evening, members of the committee and Madam Chair. I'm going to give you an overview of the Strong Mayor Powers, and I'd be pleased to attempt to answer any questions that you may have on the Strong Mayor Powers as I'm going through this. If you'd like, Madam Chair, I can take pauses throughout the presentation. There are some natural breaks, which you could ask some questions, or would you prefer that I just go through the whole thing and then take questions at the end?
Maybe we'll take questions at those natural breaks, just so council
Terrific.
members keep it fresh. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I will let you know when I've reached a natural break for you. So, as by way of a brief introduction, before we get to the context of the actual Strong Mayor Powers, I think it's very important to actually provide you with context as to how we got here. So the traditional local government system in Ontario has been in place since pre-Confederation. What it has been is a weak mayor system. It's the historical traditional system of local government throughout all of Canada, not just here in Ontario, but throughout all of Canada, that has put in place a council system where there is a weak mayor in place. Now, doesn't mean that the mayor is a weakling. All it means is that the head of council is a leader among equals, but the person who is the primary spokesperson for the municipality, the chair of the council meetings, the CEO of the municipality, only has a single vote on council and has very limited unilateral executive authority to do things unless council imbues the mayor with certain powers. So you can think of the power to expel someone from a meeting if they've been disruptive or unruly. That's the mayor's call. It's no one else's authority. The mayor has the authority to declare a state of emergency under Section 4 of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. The mayor, for certain instances under the criminal code, believe it or not, is a peace officer. No other member of council is that. But there's very few and far between executive, unilateral, statutory powers that are granted to the mayor. The mayor is equal to other members of council, essentially, in terms of the decision-making power of the council. My colleague and I wrote, when the Strong Mayor Power was first being proposed in Bill 3 back 3 years ago, we wrote that the role of the mayor has traditionally been viewed as a consensus builder, one where the head of council must work together in a spirit of cooperation and compromise with the other elected representatives of the municipality, i.e., the other elected members of council, to achieve a desired result. That's enshrined in the Municipal Act, Section 5. The powers of a municipality shall be exercised by its council. There's a refinement on that in Section 5, sub 3. A municipal power shall be exercised by bylaw. However, look at the trailer words, unless the municipality is specifically authorized to do otherwise. The strong mayor powers that I'm going to be talking to you about is the municipality being specifically authorized to do otherwise. Therefore, it fits within this provision, this linchpin provision in the Municipal Act. So, strong mayor powers. Who the heck thought of this? Out of whose brain did this explode? Well, you might be surprised, or maybe you might not. There was a book that was written about 10 years ago. It was published by a reputable book publisher. The authors were Rob Ford and Doug Ford. Yes, Doug Ford, the Premier of the province of Ontario. This quote on the page is attributed to Doug Ford. If I ever get to the provincial level of politics, municipal affairs is the first thing I would want to change. I think mayors across the province deserve stronger powers. One person in charge with veto power. Now, did this just spring out of Doug Ford? There's a little bit of context that's necessary here. So you may recall that Rob Ford, the first named author here, was a one-term mayor of the city of Toronto, a very chaotic and tumultuous term, 2010 to 2014. His seat in the old riding of Etobicoke, one of the areas of Etobicoke in Toronto, was taken over by Doug Ford. And I think the Ford brothers saw some of their visions for the city of Toronto stymied and voted down by the remainder of the council. Remember, at the time, before the Better Local Government Act of 2018, put in place by Premier Ford and his first majority government back in 2018, the City of Toronto Council had 45 members. Sometimes you would see the votes being 43 to 2, and I'll leave you to guess who the two are. Now, the Ford family had a patriarch, and the patriarch was the father of Rob and Doug Ford. He was a one-term member of Queen's Park in the provincial legislature. So the provincial scheme was not unknown to the Ford family. The other context that you need to know about this, about hey, stronger powers for mayors, one person in charge, is the patriarch of the Ford family, the father, created a very successful company, one of which has made the Ford family very wealthy. Deco Labels and Tags is the name of the company. Its headquarters in the U.S. is in the city of Chicago. What is Chicago known for? Well, it's known for being one of the big mayor cities in the United States, one of the strong mayor municipalities in the United States, together with San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Chicago's probably the best known of the strong mayor municipalities because Richard Daley ruled Chicago essentially with an iron fist from the late 1950s to the mid 1970s. And he was thought of as being the last of the big city bosses. Very centralized power in the mayor's office in Chicago. What could the mayor do in Chicago? Well, it was made known very clearly by former Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Steve Clark, when brought forward the legislation saying, hey, we looked at American jurisdiction here. We looked at Chicago, San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles. And what did those mayors have? Those mayors had veto powers. Those mayors had the authority to appoint persons to certain commissions, committees, boards that would run the municipality, and they had control over the budget. All things that I will show you in just a moment. So you have this vision, but what do you need to implement it? You need an excuse. The Ontario housing shortage. Well, the Housing Affordability Task Force that reported towards the end of the first majority term of the provincial conservatives here in Ontario in February of 2022. Remember, there was an election in June of that year. And what did it say? Ontario's in a housing crisis. Why? And all the fingers were pointed at municipalities. Development restrictions under official plan designations, zoning bylaws, development charges, building permit fees, planning processing fees, user fees and charges under the Municipal Act. All things that the Housing Affordability Task Force pointed to as being impediments to the creation of additional housing, and particularly affordable housing here in Ontario. And then the final thing is building permit delays. And who's in charge of building permit delays? Well, who issues permits? The chief building official of each municipality. Why? Because that's the system that the provincial government has set up. And by the way, you have a uniform provincial-wide building code, but who enforces it? Municipalities and principal authorities, because that's what the province has decreed. So all the problems are municipal problems that really have been created by the province. One of the big things in that Minister Clark, former Minister Clark, said when the legislation was being enacted is we have to break the logjam. We have to depoliticize the process. It takes too long to get approvals at the municipal level. So that's what the thinking was. So if you're looking back and going, where did this come from? What's the origin story? The origin story is the Ford family knowing big city strong mayors from their U.S. experience, their father's experience at Queen's Park, and their own chaotic experience during the mayoral term of Rob Ford from 2010 to 2014. I think all of that informs what you're having today with respect to strong mayors. And of course, the Housing Affordability Task Force said, hey, let's build 1.5 million new homes. And the province said, okay, and you know who's going to do it? Strong mayors are going to help us do it. That is the thinking behind all of this. So now the sources of power. There are four main sources of legislation. Two are statutes, two are regulations. The first one, the Strong Mayors Building Homes Act, Bill 3. Notice it's Bill 3. It was one of the first bills that was brought forward by the second majority progressive conservative government after the victory in the provincial election in June of 2022. Okay. Without any notice, without any warning, without nary a word during the provincial election campaign, this statute was brought forward. And what did it do? It dropped into the Municipal Act an entirely new part entitled Special Powers and Duties of the Head of Council. That was put in place in the Municipal Act and CODA, which is code word for the City of Toronto Act. There was, however, one thing missing, and I think the province then went like, we missed something here. And the unfortunately and ironically named Better Municipal Governance Act decided to plop in what has been called a very undemocratic provision that is one additional part of Part 6.1. So this afternoon or this evening, I'm going to be referring to strong mayor powers. And what I'm really referring to is Part 6.1 of the Municipal Act. Now, together with that, and to understand how the provisions are operationalized, actioned, implemented, you have to read the regulations to understand this. The first regulation is really the regulation that created the city of Pembroke as a strong mayor municipality. Why do I say that? Because Section 1 of that regulation is the listing of municipalities that have been designated by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing under an authority, Section 284.2 of the Municipal Act. The minister is given the authority to designate municipalities. And now in Ontario, we have 216 municipalities that have strong mayor powers. And how is this done? By the minister designating them and listing them all in Section 1 of Regulation 53022. So the other thing in that regulation is there are a number of technical and procedural rules of how to implement the strong mayor powers. And then finally, there is a regulation that's called provincial priorities. This regulation is put in place by the provincial cabinet. There is a separate authority that allows the province to prescribe provincial priorities for the province that can be used for three sections of the act. And I will speak about those in just a moment. But before I get to that, so that's the sources, let me just talk about the rollout, because I think this is really important for the public who is listening in on a whole bunch of this. The sources were, the rollout started with only two municipalities, the cities of Ottawa and Toronto. And that was made very clear. Only those two municipalities were granted strong mayor powers through the City of Toronto Act and the designation of the City of Ottawa in the regulation. Why? Why those two municipalities? Minister Clark and Premier Ford said very clearly, those two municipalities are the largest in Ontario. They're both over 1 million people population, and they're the ones that are in most need of housing, particularly affordable housing, and they are shovel ready. The other key important fact to know about this is it was proposed because there hadn't been any consultation about any of this as a pilot project. Both the minister, former minister, and Premier Ford said very clearly, this is a pilot project. We're going to see how this works. 10 months later, on June 16th, 26 additional municipalities who had their councils commit to the provincial housing construction targets were given the authority of or designated as strong mayor municipalities as of Canada Day. They were all municipalities that were based on population, or the big cities in Ontario, populations of 100,000 people or projected to be 100,000 people. So there was a criterion of a population size for these municipalities. Then a short time later, and I think this caught a lot of people off guard, me including, I didn't expect to see this, there were 21 additional municipalities that were offered the opportunity to become strong mayor municipalities, not if their councils agreed to the provincial housing construction targets, but if their mayors signed a pledge to those provincial housing construction targets. It's interestingly, even before the mayors had strong mayor powers in those municipalities, the mayors themselves could sign up. Notice on my slide, only 18 of those came forward. There were 3 municipalities that did not sign on for strong mayor powers because their mayors believed that they couldn't fulfill the servicing or infrastructure requirements for the provincial housing construction targets. These municipalities in this third tranche were municipalities that had populations of 50,000 or projected populations of 50,000 or more. So right now, all of these first 3 tranches of municipalities, 47 in total, all had population criteria. Then, to the surprise of many, on April the 9th, from the Ontario newsroom, a media release was sent out. Ontario proposing to expand strong mayor powers to 169 additional municipalities. No prior notice had been given. Many municipalities said, what? Where did this come from? The legislation was, for the first time, posted on the Ontario regulatory registry. It was posted for an entire term of 1 week in order to receive comments. A number of municipalities reached out to me and said, well, the last time there wasn't any posting. If our municipality does not want strong mayor powers, can we say so? Can we disclaim them? What should we do? And I said, it looks like the ministry is at least giving you an opportunity to comment. And they are listed as proposed new powers. So why don't you comment? Why don't you write to Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Rob Flack, and pass a resolution? And if you can get it passed unanimously with your mayor agreeing, hey, you might have a shot at the minister not designating your municipality on May the 1st. Well, interestingly enough, there was no population criteria this time. The proposed strong mayor powers were to be given only to single tier municipalities and lower tier municipalities with six or more members of council. Now, how is that picked? Well, if you look at the Municipal Act, the minimum number of council members that a municipality may have is five. So the province said, we want to extend this. Why don't we go down the list? Hey, here's a criteria: five members or more. Okay. Any single tier or lower tier municipalities with six or more, you may get them. And what happened? On May the 1st, this went out to all 170 municipalities. There was one additional municipality listed. Why was it 169 and all of a sudden it became 170? It's because the city of Orillia on April the 3rd was granted temporary strong mayor powers, not to build homes. That wasn't the intention. Both Mayor McIsaac in the city of Orillia and Minister Rob Flack said strong mayor powers are being given to the city of Orillia in order to deal with the state of emergency. And I think a lot of people went, well, I thought strong mayor powers were supposed to be used for building homes. Well, that's what happened. So there was a 4A tranche there, but so there's 170 municipalities, including the city of Pembroke. So, Mr. Mayor, Madam Chair, I've come to the end of the first natural break. A bit of that was history and prologue, but I'm just going to take a pause if there are any questions from council. Okay. Thank you. I don't think I took a breath during that first part, Madam Chair. So I will go in and I will take a break at the end of each of these when I speak about administrative powers, provincial priority powers, and the budget power or duty. These are the three categories that I've put them in. So let me start with the administrative powers. By the way, a number of municipalities refer to these as administrative slash political powers. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's quite correct. I just like to refer to them as administrative powers. It's a little briefer. Now, provincial priority powers, those are three specific powers that can only be used to advance or to not have provincial priorities interfered with. And I call them provincial priority powers. Some municipalities refer to those as legislative powers. That's not incorrect. I just think the better moniker is provincial priorities. And then the last one, the budget power, or your mayor may correct me and say, no, it's a budget responsibility, and that would not be wrong. So I will talk about each of these in turn. So the first one, administrative powers. The authority to direct municipal employees, that's the term, not a defined term, to undertake research, implement decisions, and provide advice to the head of council and the municipality is now with the mayor. Now, if you're looking at this and you might say, that sounds very familiar, it is because this provision is mostly in Section 227 of the Municipal Act. Right now, it reads that the municipal administration can receive direction from direction from council, can undertake research based on council's direction, and can implement decisions of council, and provide advice to council. This is all changed. Now, the head of council can do this. However, it's not as broad as I've stated it. The head of council may provide directions to municipal employees only to exercise the powers or responsibilities under 6.1. Okay, so it's not necessarily as broad as I indicated in my first statement, but it's quite broad. Now, this is a change because if you remember the Collingwood Judicial Inquiry, Justice Morocco was very clear. He says no member of council, including the head of council, can direct staff to do anything unless they've been delegated the authority by council. This is now changed. Now, if you're worried and you're saying, wow, can the mayor now go and give oral and verbal direction to staff and we don't know about it? No, it doesn't work like that. All directions under this authority need to be made in writing. And you'll see a slide coming up where I talk about the requirements for it to be in writing and to whom it has to be provided to. By the way, it has to be made available to the public. So there is some measure of transparency and accountability to this. This power cannot be delegated, cannot be assigned. The next power, the power respecting the chief administrative officer. I've put the actual provision there, 284.5. The powers of a municipality under section 229 with respect to the CAO are assigned to the head of council. A number of persons have misinterpreted this section, and they've read it that the powers of the CAO are now transferred to the head of council. That's not true. What it says is the powers of a municipality under section 229. What is the power of a municipality? To appoint the chief administrative officer. Now, that is now the authority of the head of council. This authority can be delegated back to to council. Okay? This is the mayor's decision now. By the way, the authority to appoint always carries with it the authority to unappoint, to revoke, repeal the original appointment. So the authority here is to appoint and revoke the appointment. So hiring and firing the CAO. The powers with respect to the organizational structure of the municipality now reside with the mayor. The mayor can determine the organizational structure and reorganize it. What is organizational structure? I asked a couple of my employment law lawyers at the firm who help me with municipal clients, and they said to me, that is not a term of art in employment law. By the way, if you look up the Employment Standards Act, the Occupational Health and Safety Act, the Labor Relations Act, that term is not used. Why was it chosen? Probably for its maximum flexibility. The power of the mayor to reset the organizational structure of the municipality includes the power to hire and dismiss the employment of persons who are division heads. Now, who is a division head? Not a defined term. Who is it in your municipality? I don't know. We would have to look at an organizational chart, and I probably have to speak to your HR director and possibly your CAO to understand that. Interestingly enough, when the debates were coming forward on the Strong Mayors Act, former Minister Clark several times referred to division heads as department heads, which is how I was thinking about it. And I think he may not even have referred to the term division heads. He kept referring to department heads. So I've sort of, as historical reference, I've put department division heads. Now, if a division head is a statutory officer, the clerk, the treasurer, the fire chief, the chief building official, the integrity commissioner, those persons are safe. They cannot be appointed, nor can they be terminated by the head of council, as well as other officers who are required to be appointed under another act cannot be removed by the CEO of the municipality. So, for instance, a weed control officer under the Weeds Control Act, a building inspector under the Building Code Act, and so on. Any existing organizational structure that was in place on May the 1st in the city of Pembroke remains in place unless the mayor changes it. Division heads, can the mayor remove the division head without cause? Yes. The answer is simply yes. The mayor does not need cause. If the mayor can reorganize the organizational structure, some people may have to go. Some people may need to be hired to be division heads. The mayor can make those decisions. However, can the mayor do it with impunity, meaning without consequences? And the answer is no. The answer is any person who was employed carries with them all of their employment accoutrements, benefits, entitlements. So if they have an employment contract or common law benefits, rights, remuneration, the right to notice, the right to severance, the right possibly to damages in certain instances, yes, those are flow from that. One of the questions that I've been asked is, what about hybrid functions? What if a municipality appoints a CAO slash clerk or a CAO slash treasurer? Does that mean that that person, even though they may be a division head, cannot be removed? My simple answer, and by the way, I attended a webinar from Municipal Affairs who were speaking about this. They refused to answer that question. I'll tell you why they refused to answer it. They didn't think about it. They put this in and put statutory officers and didn't think about smaller municipalities that had sometimes hybrid functions. So my view, this is my unofficial view, is I believe that if a CAO or a clerk is appointed as clerk slash planning director, I believe those hybrid appointments would save the person from being terminated or possibly being appointed. Now, I say that, but what happens if someone is the clerk of the municipality or the treasurer of the municipality, and then they get appointed as CAO, and there's a separate bylaw for that, and they may retain their original appointment as clerk, treasurer, deputy clerk, and they are given the new title of CAO. I'm not sure that that would protect the CAO from possible termination. So some of these questions still need to be answered by the law. By the way, the legislation has been in place now for 3 years, almost 3 years, September of 2023. It hasn't changed one iota. The only thing that's changed is the listing of municipalities that are designated as strong mayor municipalities. So this power can be delegated back to council or to the CAO. Does it, by the way, create a constructive dismissal, for instance, of the CAO, who is presumed to run the municipality and everyone under him or her? And the answer is no. A constructive dismissal is an action that an employer takes to implement something. This has been done by legislation, by statute. So in my view, there's no constructive dismissal for any CAOs who may have had their authority through their bylaw, their appointment bylaw, through their employment contract, through their job posting. None of those will impact and will have any kind of constructive dismissal aspect to it. The additional two political powers that again came from U.S. Strong mayor municipalities are with respect to prescribed local boards and prescribed committees. I'll take the suspense away. There are no prescribed local boards. If there were, and the minister himself can prescribe local boards, but if there were, the CEO, the head of council, can appoint the chairs and vice chairs. With respect to prescribed committees, that is actual defined term under Section 4 of the regulation. And it says a prescribed committee is a committee that consists solely of members of council. Now, I made the mistake of saying it's a committee of council, which would mean that it's a committee comprised of all members of council, like all of them, like in your municipality, all 7. It doesn't have to be. It can be a committee that's comprised of 2 or 3 members of council, but it's only members of council. So if you have those sorts of committees, the mayor can dissolve them. Can the mayor create committees? Yes, these types of committees, and can appoint the chairs and vice chairs and assign the functions or terms of reference. These powers, well, really only the second one because the first one is an empty shell, but these can be delegated back to council. And there is a specific authority for that. Now, I've referenced that the directions to staff is not something that can be delegated to anybody. But the other powers that I've talked about in this section can all be delegated, and I have them on the list here. So the chief administrative officer, the organizational structure, local boards and committees can all be delegated back to the persons noted there. By the way, this is a closed list. Statutory Interpretation 101 says that if you specifically have a list and says this is what you can do, the legislative drafters mean that this is only what you can do. Only these powers can be delegated back. And let me say it, the delegation is permissive, if the mayor would like to do so, and it's discretionary at the mayor's instance. By the way, the delegations are made in accordance with Section 23.1 sub 2 of the Municipal Act. So those are several rules. I think there's 7 of them there. One of them is a person who delegates continues to retain the power, even though they've delegated the power to somebody else. So even though the mayor may delegate these powers, the mayor retains them. Can a person who delegates authority, can they revoke them? Yes, at any time. So could the mayor delegate the authority of the organizational structure back to the CAO? Yes, the mayor could do that. What happens if the CAO resigns and you have a new CAO? Maybe the mayor doesn't have the trust in the CAO. The mayor could revoke that delegation. The delegation remains in place until it's revoked. So what happens if at the end of the term of council, the mayor has not delegated any of these things? And there's an election and the mayor is not in the seat in the next term. The new mayor could delegate. There's no problem there. What happens if the mayor currently does delegate all of these powers and the next election, the mayor is not in the mayoral seat? Could the next mayor revoke all those designations? Yes. And if the mayor is reelected and runs for office and is back in office, could the mayor just carry on business as normal? Yes. Could the mayor revoke or start delegating? Yes. These are fluid things and can continue to happen. So, Madam Chair, that's the end of the first part. I'll take a pause right now on administrative powers and ask if there are any questions with respect to them.
Yes, there is a question from our Deputy Mayor, Brian Abdallah. So, Brian, go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr. Mascarin. Just a question, maybe I missed it earlier. The section 24-5 and 6, authority to hire and appoint CAO and dismiss CAO, and the right to hire and terminate department heads. If the mayor did, if the mayor of a municipality did exercise that right, does council have the option or opportunity to veto that with 2/3 of a vote?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Deputy Mayor, no. The answer is no. You'll see in a moment, I will show you where council does have the authority to veto a mayor's veto or to override the mayor's veto. These powers are not one of them.
Really? Okay, thank you,
Yes.
sir. Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, Deputy Mayor, you didn't ask the question, but look, and I should have said this before. These powers here, you probably noticed, none of them actually specify anywhere that they are only for provincial priorities, only for building homes. None of these powers that I've just spoken to you. So many people said, hold on. So the mayor can reorganize the municipal structure, hire and fire the CAO, but that has to be done for strong mayor powers for building homes. And the answer is no. There's nothing that ties them together. Why were these put in place? Again, from US jurisdictions where the strong mayors were thought that these are the sorts of powers that strong mayors should have. And I think Steve Clark originally said that's how we came up with these. But these are not tied specifically to providing homes and infrastructure related to homes.
Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Chair. I have great concerns in regards to the utilization of the strong mayor powers. And, have you ever heard of the phrase promote to demote, or in this case, promote to dismiss? Having one individual have the power to dismiss a CAO is concerning. We have a democratic process that we use around this table, and I feel that, these strong mayor powers do not reflect a democratic process. And, here's an example. Why would somebody want to move from a management position into a division head or department head? For one thing, they'd be more protected as a manager than they would be as a division head. The other thing is that we have, and we've talked about this last year, in terms of recruiting the appropriate individuals to work in municipal government. And then when you have uncertainty every 4 years potentially, in the event that there is a different mayor, that is concerning to the individual. So I don't think that this really allows individuals to thrive other than, if the mayor does not get along with the CAO, or a difference of opinions, or maybe they don't see that they're going in the right direction. Instead of working on that relationship, they could just, fire the CAO. And also they can restructure the entire city of Pembroke in regards to combining positions unilaterally without the involvement of council. For me, I find this very problematic, and I think, as citizens and residents of the city of Pembroke, they should find this problematic as well. I'm not saying that Mayor Gervais would do some of these things, but, when you have that power, and really little controls in terms of who's exercising and the controls associated with exercising that power, it's very, very concerning. And, it also puts into question that, maybe, the crony or friend of mine now becomes a CAO. I can appoint that individual. Friends of mine could become department heads. Or this person is becoming a little bit challenging for me. He's a manager. We're going to promote that individual to division head, and then can his bum. Very, very concerning. And this is just the administrative powers. I'm sure I'll have more comments as we get further through, but also in terms of budget, there's a good example. A budget that may be a provincial priority, such as transit. But if the mayor doesn't agree with the transit options, it's a provincial priority, so he has to vote for it, but it doesn't necessarily mean he has to fund it under the budget accordingly. So, these are really big, big concerns. And in fact, personally, I would not run again for the city of Pembroke, knowing that these powers are there, because I think it's diminished myself as a councillor and the people that I represent in terms of the city of Pembroke. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Jackno, and then if council's okay, I'll speak from the chair.
Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Purcell. What is the system doing to itself? And traditionally, the mayor and the CAO have usually had a pretty strong relationship where one would advise the other. And, our CAOs rather, are highly skilled people, highly trained. I know our own CAO has a degree as an engineer. He has an oversight on many things, not only municipal business. And why, as Councillor Purcell said, if you're looking to have a career in municipal politics and do your best and continue on, why would you stick your neck out every 4 years not knowing whether you're going to have a job in 3.5 years from the date? So I would suggest to the CAO that he looks into his fund and start buying the mayor a gift every morning so that they have an excellent relationship, which I know they do, and the gift's not necessary. I'm being a little facetious. Getting back to, the Strong Mayors Act and the Ford brothers from their book, who obviously, they were shot down many times in Toronto Council with a vote of 45-2. I would presume that they were the Ford brothers. So when they wrote their book, they said the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give strong power to the mayors. And hopefully, I may be a mayor someday. So to me, I have the greatest respect for Mayor Ford. I think he's a strong individual. But to me, that's a vindictive way of saying, well, everybody disagreed with me for a couple of years, so now I'm going to show them what a guy in power can do. And that's the way I read that. So when you got 45-2 as a councillor, the majority rules, I respect that. I don't say, well, I'm going to get them next time. And that's what it feels like to me. Hopefully I'm wrong. There's 444 municipalities in the province of Ontario. One day, Doug Ford got up and Rob Ford, and he said, well, you know what? We got two big cities here, Toronto and Ottawa, so let's give them some special powers. And then we look at the rest of the scenario. Let's start building more houses. That looks good in a political campaign. But the problem is, You can build all the houses you want, but first of all, you need the vocational people in the trades to be able to do that. Do we have them? You know, you want to build a house, it's hard to get a plumber. It's hard to get a guy that can spread mortar to lay a block. I mean, not everybody can be an engineer or, you know, a computer technologist. You need people with hands-on skills that know how to construct a house. Everybody wants to live in a home, but if there's nobody there with the knowledge or the ability to do it, sure, maybe a home would be built. But going back to the building inspector in our own small communities, you know, you got to build faster, you got to build more. Are we losing something in the interpretation? Now we're building more, you know, we need more legislation, we need more people to look at those particular projects. There's more paperwork, and they're saying there'll be less paperwork. I don't believe that. You come into, you know, this particular small community, there's loads of paperwork. You know, I asked for a report today, it's 45 pages on one item. So don't tell me we're reducing the paperwork, that is incorrect. I truly believe that democracy, you know, is at a tipping point here. We're sitting on a precipice where we could fall off. And it's not that I don't have faith in the mayor, but I have faith in the system that we have. And to imply that, you know, there were weak mayoralty powers in the past, pre-Confederation, I mean, if they were weak for that amount of time, we wouldn't have lasted. We wouldn't have progressed. So here we are today. The country's growing. There's more immigration. There's more people coming to our country. And now we're going to say, well, maybe that really isn't good. Let's create some strong mayor powers and make that even better, maybe. But I'm having difficulty trying to absorb that because from what I'm interpreting from the comments, and nothing personal, sir, against your, you know, your opinion, I really believe in what you're saying to a certain extent, but I mean, I have my opinion on democracy. And are we on a precipice waiting to fall off? It's like, you know, a few years ago, the cannabis issue. There were only going to be 6 cannabis outlets in the province of Ontario. Well, guess what? We got probably 10 or 11 right here in the little city of Pembroke, you know? And I mean, alcohol is being sold in the local grocery store. It's a matter of convenience. I understand that. Cannabis is legal. I like to have a beer, so I can't say to somebody, you're going to have a joint. You know, I can't criticize them. That's their personal opinion. The law is the law. However, I still believe that we have to keep those strong powers of a majority rules, not a mayor and a couple of people together, as Councillor Purcell alluded to. If he's got a couple of cronies, you know, who's got the power? Won't be us. It won't be us. And will it be for the betterment of the community? Perhaps it may, but I don't think so. So that is my opinion, and thank you for giving me your ear. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could, I can speak from the chair? Okay. So we're not going to shoot the messenger, because that's clearly what you are, Mr. Mascarin. We know that you're just presenting it as it is. Whether you have an opinion of your own on whether it's good or not, that's not the point here. The point is that I hear and I agree. Specifically, what frightens me is when I hear a fellow councillor say, you know, this is a deterrent to running. I agree. Because each one of us is elected to this table because we bring our own opinions, we're diverse in our backgrounds and our knowledge, and we are supposed to represent the many different opinions in our community. And when you have someone who's elected who has veto power, to me that's a little scary, especially in the political environment that we're in right now. I mean, in a little over a year, we're going to have another election. If you get someone who's radically motivated to run and is successful and gets in as mayor, then we may have problems. We see it around the world right now. You get a radically motivated person, the people are all behind them, they get in power, and then who knows what could happen. And that's what scares me. Not right now, but going forward, I mean, are we going to be losing? Is this going to be a dictatorship of some type? That's what scares me. But that's not what we're here to discuss. Unfortunately, our hands are tied. And so we can only hope that the present mayor and future mayors will delegate some of this authority, as mentioned in that last one, the last slide, where they can delegate the authority over the CAO, local boards, committees, and things of that nature. Anyway, we have no power. We're talking about mayor powers. Well, we have no power to change this legislation that's coming down, unfortunately. So, okay, no more questions. We can move along.
All right. Thank you for all those comments and to yours as well, Madam Chair. So I've talked about the administrative political powers. I'm now going to move to provincial priorities. There's a specific provision, two provisions that allow the Lieutenant Governor and Council, Cabinet, to prescribe provincial priorities. So just to be clear, this is this government's provincial priorities: housing and infrastructure related to housing. There is the ability to pass a regulation, and here it is, the provincial priority powers. You'll see that it's very similar to what the Ontario Affordability Housing Statement said, the report said, building 1.5 million new homes and constructing and maintaining infrastructure to support housing. There are 3 separate provisions in the Municipal Act that relate strictly and only to the provincial priority powers. The first one, as you know, one of the mandatory bylaws that you must pass as a council is the procedure bylaw. The procedure bylaw basically says this is how we will engage in meetings. These are the rules. Well, despite any rule in the procedure bylaw, this section allows the head of council to bring forward a matter and have council consider it. And the qualifications to do so, the head of council forms an opinion that there is a potential advancement of provincial priorities if council considers the matter. That's the test. So, notwithstanding what the procedural bylaw says, the mayor could come forward and say, in my opinion, this matter here is important because I think it will advance a provincial priority and I want council to consider it. Now, unlike a power that I'm going to show you in a moment, the mayor cannot require council to vote on it, just to consider it. That's the first one. The second one is the veto power. So to be very, very clear, this power, this veto power, only relates to the use of the strong mayor powers with respect to provincial priorities. So with respect to the veto power, what the mayor can do, if the mayor believes, has an opinion that a bylaw may potentially interfere with a provincial priority, and that would include a bylaw under the Municipal Act, under the Planning Act, and any other prescribed statute. And there's one prescribed statute, the Development Charges Act, which I have on the screen. If the mayor is of the opinion that a recent bylaw enacted by council interferes with or potentially interferes with the provincial priority, the mayor can veto that bylaw. So this is a bylaw that council enacts. Now, I've said the mayor can veto a recent bylaw. Why did I say recent? It's because the legislation says the mayor must give the notice of an intention to veto the bylaw within 2 days of the enactment. This means that the mayor can't go back in time and seek to veto a bylaw that council passed 2 months ago or 2 years ago. Can only veto bylaws that are now enacted by council. So the mayor has to provide notice to each member of council and the clerk within 2 days of the vote. Then the mayor has 14 days from the original date of the vote in order to issue a veto. I guess it's a decision of the mayor that has to actually indicate what his supporting reasons are. And the supporting reasons would be this bylaw or this portion of this bylaw interferes with the provincial priority. So the mayor must substantiate that. Now, council, within 21 days of being given notice of the mayor's veto, can override the mayor's veto by a two-third council vote. Now, this is important. It's not two-thirds of the members present. Your council, 7 members, you can have quorum with 4 members. That won't be enough. Even though you can have a legal council meeting, it won't be enough for you. Even if all 4 of those members vote in favor of the override of the mayor's veto, that won't be enough. You need 5 persons out of 7 to vote. And the mayor is entitled to vote on the veto. So therefore, presumably, the mayor would vote against the override. So all the mayor has to do is find 2 other persons. Okay? That is the veto power. It can only be used if a bylaw potentially interferes with the provincial priority, and that bylaw is a bylaw under the Development Charges Act, the Municipal Act, or the Planning Act. Okay, that's the veto power. The third power is the one that was added by Bill 39, Section 284.11.1. Despite what a procedure bylaw says, if the mayor is of the opinion that a bylaw may potentially advance a provincial priority, and it's one of those bylaws that I mentioned before, a development charge bylaw, a Planning Act bylaw, or a bylaw under the Municipal Act, the mayor can propose that the bylaw with supporting reasons is brought forward to council, and get this, the mayor can require council to vote. I don't think council has a decision to make here. Council cannot leave the room and say quorum is lost. The mayor can require council to vote on that bylaw. And here's the kicker. This is the one that's been termed undemocratic. The mayor with just more than 1/3 of council can pass the bylaw. Okay, now there are a number of requirements there. The mayor can override the procedure bylaw, can bring forward a bylaw if, in his opinion, it potentially advances a provincial priority, require council to vote, and all the mayor needs is 2 other members to agree with him. You have a council of 7. 1/3 of council is 2 1/3. And you add the mayor onto that, you have 3 votes, 2 members, the mayor voting, you have 3 members, you have more than 1/3. The mayor is entitled to vote. This one is the one that's been labeled undemocratic. By the way, there is a challenge against one of these bylaws. It's one that was passed by the Council of the City of Peterborough. The mayor advanced the bylaw that would allow a 26-unit4 transitional housing that was voted on and passed by a 4 to 7 vote. There are 11 members of council. 4 is more than 1/3. That was passed, and that has been challenged. I've looked at the materials. The legal solicitor at the City of Peterborough was kind enough to send me the materials. I thought that they'd be interesting to look at. In fact, I was really surprised. The materials basically say this: the mayor passed this bylaw under this authority with only 1/3 of council, more than 1/3 of council. The mayor should not have done that. That's basically what the argument is. Not sure how far that's going to go. So again, Madam Chair, I've reached the end of provincial priority powers, and I'll take a break at this point and ask if there are any questions.
Are there any questions on that portion? No, seeing none, you can have another sip of water, and when you're ready, proceed.
I am. Thank you, Madam Chair. The next one, I only have one slide on this, the budget responsibility, duty, or power. It has been always council's budget. It is no longer that. It is the mayor's budget, except if the mayor does not come forward. The section here, 284.16, says the head of council shall prepare the proposed budget for the municipality and must do so by a certain date. If the mayor does not do so by February 1st, then it defaults to council. Council shall prepare the budget and adopt it. The mayor cannot delegate the authority for the budget. However, the mayor can give directions to staff to bring forward a budget, for instance, in how the mayor would like it. The mayor could say, for instance, this is just an example. The mayor could go to the treasurer and say, you know what? Let's dig up our let's pull back our sleeves and let's go in. And me and you are going to work on this. We're going to come up with a 0% budget. Mayor could do that. The mayor could direct the CAO, the clerk, the treasurer to, hey, you know what? We've been doing really well with creating and setting the budget in this municipality. Let's set up the system how we've always done it. Create a budget committee. Staff brings forward a budget to the committee to consider. We have public consultation, and then eventually I bring it forward on whatever date to council. That could be an example. The mayor could give directions to the treasurer going, I don't care what you do. Ultimately, it's going to be my budget, but I want you to come back and it better be a -2% or a +5% or whatever. So there's a whole different array of how the mayor can do it. The mayor does not have to sit down with the calculator and all the plans, right? The mayor could direct staff to do things and could direct staff basically to do it in the way that it's previously been done. There are a number of rules with timing and curtailing the timing, and I'm not going to go into that level of detail. When the mayor brings forward the budget, council can propose amendments. The mayor can veto those amendments, okay? And if council doesn't like the mayor vetoing the amendments, council can veto the mayor's veto. But again, you need a 2/3 vote, okay? And all of the rules, such as they are listed in section 7 of the regulation. The rules are one section with a multiplicity of subsections in there that sets out certain timings and certain ways in which this is to be done, which are too complicated to deal today. But so for what is your purpose, the mayor's budget is what now is going to come forward. If the mayor does not bring a budget, then it becomes council's budget and defaults to council to do so. The mayor does not have to wait to February 1st, can advance the budget process much earlier than that. So again, Madam Chair, I'll stand down for a moment, take a sip of water, and ask if there are any questions.
Thanks again for your presentation. Where do I start? Putting myself in the position of the mayor's seat, the sole responsibility for the budget and the accountability would lay with me. So, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. A budget at 0% typically means cuts. So, you're going to have individuals angry at council. Council's just going to stand back and go, there's the guy you need to talk to. I had no say, right? Staff made the budget based on the mayor's wishes. That's 0%. Now, if you have 10%, ratepayers are going to say, why is my taxes going up 10%? Again, council members stand back and go, not my problem. There's the guy you need to talk to. Why would anybody want him in that position? Again, we have consensus around our budget-making processes in the past. We debated for how many days? 4 days? Debated over how we're going to proceed with the budget, and we came out with something that was reasonable, balanced. Some would disagree, but based on the times, it was a good budget, and it got done the things that we wanted to do collectively. So, I have real big concerns in regards to that power. The other thing, like I mentioned before, is, okay, transit is a priority. If I don't believe in transit and I'm the mayor, okay, I'm going to go to the budget. I'm going to go to the treasurer and say, you know what, we're going to cut some dollars this year, and I think we're going to cut it at transit. So you're going to diminish the service to the point where it's not effective. Is that possible? You're still meeting the intent. You're still agreeing that you need a transit program, but you're not funding it accordingly because you want it to fail. These are real concerns. Another thing, you talked about committees, and I just have to go back a little bit because I forgot to ask this question. You talk about committees. So we have an accessibility committee. We know we have various different committees that are made up with public members and council. What you will see is that committees will only be made up of 2 council members and everybody else will be working group or subcommittee. You know why? Because then the mayor can dismantle these types of committees without using his powers. But if you put people on the committee, such as we have for accessibility committee, you have members of the public on that committee, you can't touch those. So this is going to affect all the ways that we do these businesses, right? And again, it comes down to our democratic process that, our fathers, our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers fought to instill in this country of Canada. And now I can't believe a province of Ontario is jamming down these types of powers and going from, a democratic, well-run process. We don't have any issues in terms of addressing the priorities of the province, such as transit, housing. We're doing all those things. We have no issues passing these things and moving things along. Yes, I could see if you've got a council of 40 members and you're trying to pass something along, I could see where that makes sense. But a city the size of Pembroke, that does not make sense. And we need to fight for these powers. We need to keep the democratic process. It's happening everywhere. At what point do we stand up and say, no, this is not the right direction we need to go in? And I'm the person to do that. I will not continue in a council where my opinion really doesn't matter. It comes to budget time, it comes to decisions that's being made. Why? Why am I wasting my time? Why would anybody waste their time? Why would somebody be able to ditch feet? I don't know why. Would somebody want that aggravation? To be the point guy? To say, you did this, you did that, and that's how residents think. They want somebody to blame. Instead of blaming all the council, we have big shoulders. Put it on one person, I'm afraid you're going to destroy that person, and you're going to destroy council. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Totally agree with everything you've said, Councillor Purcell and Jacquinot and Lafreniere. Just to be clear, Section 284-11-1, where the mayor, if the mayor feels that he wants to propose a bylaw to advance provincial priority, it only needs 1/3 of the vote. So 3 out of 7 councillors, I think that is. So if that happened at this council, I'm not saying it's going to, but it happened at any council, can the council, then that's it? There's no repercussion? Then that bylaw goes? Is that right?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, the bylaw is in force and it's presumed to be valid. I will get to a moment, possible ways of challenging it, but yes, the bylaw is in place. And the other council members can't say, oh, well, it was only passed with 1/3, more than 1/3, and so therefore it's not valid. You'd have to challenge it.
Yeah, so, like we spoke about this before when I brought forth the resolution and Councillor Purcell seconded, and it's gone to different municipalities in our community. Hopefully enough municipalities will have similar resolutions or adopt ours, and we go to AMO in August and talk about it to the province and say, listen, this isn't right, because I can't fathom that totally undemocratic, the 1/3, the 2/3, it's just adding more work. And like I said before, our cities, we've never governed this way, and the future should be shaped by many, not a few. So it's not a good laid out legislation. And if they want to get more houses, they should do, like I said before, promote, there's no price attached to the 1.5 million homes and we need to do what some developers trying to do in Laurentian Valley, 349,000 with a rental unit, that type of attitude, If there's no price attached to these homes, who's going to afford a $500,000 home in Pembroke to working people? So it has to be a different strategy than this undemocratic legislation. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, our treasurer would like to comment.
What, I actually just have a question.
A
So
question.
for the council vetoing of the mayor's veto, is that, because we don't always have everybody present at some of our budget meetings, so does the council veto have to be the minimum 5, or if only, if we have quorum but we don't have all 7 members, how does that work in that instance?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. I think I partially answered this before, not with respect to the budget power, but yes, you could have a meeting that could only have 4 members, and then you'd have quorum, you'd have a legal meeting. You don't have enough to pass a veto because you'd need 5 members. It is 5 members of the entire council. It is not 5 members of, it's not 5, sorry, it is not a majority, 2/3 of the members present. It has to be the 2/3 of all of council.
Okay, thank you, John. Did you have a drink of water? Now you can proceed.
Thank you. I'm coming to the end, Madam Madam Chair. So here are just some other parts that you need to be aware of. We were just partially talking about this. There is this unfortunately entitled section that's called immunity. And many people have misread this. They think, oh, mayor's decision, it's immune. We cannot challenge it. Well, it doesn't say that. It says a decision made or a veto power, other power exercised legally and in good faith shall not be quashed or open for review in whole or in part. And I've cited down below sections 272 and 273 because that's where this section's borrowed from. So if the mayor acts illegally, that means not in compliance with some sort of law, and or acts in bad faith, and bad faith it's a term of art in law. It means in the municipal context, a lack of candor, a lack of transparency, accountability, acting for an ulterior or improper motive. That's what bad faith says. You can possibly still challenge a mayor's decision to use the strong mayor powers, but you'd have to argue illegality or bad faith. Okay. Now, if there is a vacancy in the office of any member of council, council has a decision to make. Within 60 days of the declaration of vacancy, council must either appoint someone or run a by-election. That does not hold true for the strong mayor. Strong mayor can only be elected. Council cannot appoint a strong mayor. By the way, concomitant with this, and I'm really glad that at least the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing clarified one point. They clarified that only the strong mayor can exercise strong mayor powers. I had always thought that this was the case. I had discussed it very early on with the city solicitor in Toronto because there was a question there. Could the deputy mayor act with respect to strong mayor powers if the mayor's not there? And we came to the determination that the answer was no. There was some dissension. The city of Mississauga did not believe that that was the case. In the recent webinar that Municipal Affairs provided to municipalities, Municipal Affairs confirmed that only the strong mayor can act. So if the mayor is not present at a meeting, the deputy mayor, who would normally step in, doesn't have the strong mayor powers. Okay, so that's really clear. There is the in writing requirements. As I mentioned before, to date, most mayoral decisions, whether they are decisions proper, directions, or vetoes, or I guess other things, whatever that may be, have been, and they've taken the form, and don't take this pejoratively, but they've taken the form of executive order type formats. They're very brief, typically. They usually have a title. the statutory and or regulatory authorities, a few whereas clauses, recitals, and then you'd have numbered paragraphs, but usually very brief, or sometimes just a single paragraph. That's how most mayoral decisions have looked. Most municipalities have set up a mayoral decision page on their website where people can go, because now someone doesn't just have to look up a bylaw or the minutes of a council meeting to see what the resolutions were in order to find out, is there authority for council to do is there authority for the municipality to do something? They now have to pay attention to mayoral decisions, vetoes, and direction. By the way, the question that I've been asked is, does the mayor need to sign off and approve bylaws at the end of a council meeting, because the mayor could veto them? I didn't think that that was the case, but in most instances, most municipalities actually have the mayor sign a document that indicates that the mayor is not intending to veto any bylaws. So therefore, if a bylaw needs to come in force on the day that it is passed, authenticated by the corporate seal and the signature of the presiding officer and the clerk, you don't want a potential challenge if you have to do something the very next day. So many municipalities have taken the extra step of having the mayor sign a mayoral decision that he will not is not intending to veto any bylaws. Then there is a regulation making authority. I mentioned two before: the ability of the minister to designate a municipality, the ability of cabinet to prescribe provincial priorities. The minister also has broad regulation making authority that includes these things, including a retroactive bylaw that has, a retroactive regulation that goes back in time. I think the only reason that was put there, in case a mayor does something wrong and still gets maybe some dispensation from the minister can pass a regulation that might give retroactive effect for what the mayor did. And then finally, the very last point, there's one other statute that's impacted, and I'm sure your integrity commissioner must have let you know about this, Mr. Mayor. There is an addition to the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, Section 5.3, that really only applies to the head of council of a designated strong mayor municipality. And the same rules generally apply. You cannot use a power or exercise a duty if you have a pecuniary interest. Now, that just falls along all of the other requirements of the act that say, if you're at a meeting and there's a matter and you have a pecuniary interest, you have to declare it. Then you have to sign a written statement, and you cannot participate, you cannot vote, and you cannot influence the voting. Those rules apply to the strong mayor with respect to the exercise of any strong mayor powers or obligations. So, Madam Chair, my conclusions very, very briefly. Strong mayor powers provide limited executive powers and authorities, but as I think I've highlighted to you, and I guess I'm the bringer of bad news, is they are very significant powers. They are the administrative / political powers. There are the three powers related only to provincial priorities. And then there's the budget responsibility or duty. And finally, some other miscellaneous powers and duties. So that's the end of my presentation, Madam Chair. What I'll do is I'll stop sharing my screen. And again, if there are any further questions or anyone would like to ask me anything else, I'd be pleased to answer any questions. I'm sorry I've gone off camera here.
Yeah, we're sorry we can't see you either, but
I'm not sure. I can't seem to get it back on.
that's okay. Oh, there you are. So Councillor Jackno does have a question. Thank you.
Thank you. Strong mayor's power, a decision has to be made. The mayor realizes in the chair that all of a sudden he's had a perceived conflict of interest and must leave. The deputy mayor is now in his seat. Who makes the decision?
Through you, Madam Chair, the deputy mayor can't make a decision on it. So I think what you're asking is the mayor brings something to council. The mayor then realizes I have a conflict of interest and leaves. What happens? Well, the mayor's not there to advance it. I suppose if there's a vote, the vote can proceed. The mayor would have been entitled to vote, but the mayor's no longer there. I suppose the vote can still go ahead.
So it would be a decision of council on that strong mayor's power item.
Well, I think here we were talking about potentially just the bylaw that can be passed with 1/3 of a vote. So I suppose if the mayor had brought it and had advanced it to that end, and all of a sudden realized that there was a pecuniary interest and he can't participate, I mean, I think that would be a little unusual, but yes, it's theoretically possible that the mayor could then say, I'm going to leave the room and I won't vote. I suppose the vote could still go ahead.
Or be vetoed?
The mayor would have to exercise the veto.
But he's not in
There's-
the chair.
That's right. And he doesn't, and he can't exercise the power. A veto doesn't have to happen when you're in the chair. A veto can happen outside of a sitting of a meeting.
The mayor would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for trying to unpack a very complex set of information. I know that the province, the ministry had a webinar which was helpful, but certainly not to the extent of what your information is. So I appreciate that you provided us with the slide deck and so forth, and it's a lot of information, but I do appreciate the presentation because that helps trying to understand what this is all about. So I appreciate that.
Are there any more questions from council members? No? Councillor Purcell has one, and then I'll come back.
Sorry, just another comment. I hear that, some of the actions that we may need to look at if the mayor chooses to go in that direction in terms of utilizing the strong mayor powers is that when, again, it's more of an administrative burden on our staff is to now create a mayor decision page and also to create a mayor decision not intending to utilize attestation form, just more administrative burden for our overworked clerk and CAO. So again, I just don't see anything that's really a positive outcome of this particular legislation, and I think more specifically how it relates to how we operate in the city of Pembroke. I do see merits in terms of maybe some larger municipalities, but again, I just don't see how this is going to create momentum. It's going to create debate amongst this council, right? It's going to single out individuals for making decisions. And instead of being a council decision, it could be a sole decision based on who sits in the mayor's seat. So very, very concerned because I think that it really is something that's going to set up for failure here in smaller communities. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess after listening, I think that any viewers watching or anyone interested in this, like I said, another election's only about, I don't know, not even 18 months away. So if anything, I urge residents in communities that are affected by the strong mayor to really pay attention to the candidates that are running and make sure that they are individuals with integrity who have the entire community in their mind when they're making decisions, and that they're not, radically motivated. I heard one term used tonight that kind of scared me, and it was executive orders. Kind of scared me. We know that south of the border, executive orders were flying all over the place. That just kind of reminded me of what we, may be looking at. So yeah, I want people to really pay attention to the candidates running and make sure that we're in good hands the next term. So again, I want to thank you, and the mayor's already thanked you as well, for a very deep insight into what we're dealing with now. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and the rest of the council. I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I wish you the best going forward. And should you have any concerns or issues, I'm open for business and happy to help. So thank you again for the opportunity
Thank
for this
you.
evening.
Thank you. Good night. Oh,
Good night.
sorry. Oh, Deputy Mayor's waving. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Okay, very interesting. Now we will move along. And I'm going to ask Mr. DeRoche to come up, the Director of Parks and Recreation for the city. And the first item of business is asset naming change. Jordan, go ahead.
All right, good evening, Chair and Council. So the recommendation for this report is that the Parks and Recreation Committee approve the following. Number one, that the suite located inside the Pembroke Memorial Centre be named after Jamie Bramberger and will be referred to as Jamie's Studio. Number two, that Jamie's Studio will be continued for rental basis during events, and fee increases will remain consistent with all of the recreation service increases and determined by council. And number three, that Jamie's Studio will replace the suite in the fees and charges bylaw 2025-24, Schedule D, recreation and facility fees. So given that staff had brought forward a report in the month of May, I won't go through the report again, but I will highlight some of the updates. The first being that since the previous report in May, we did receive an additional $250 in donations, so that brings the approximate total to $4,250. In 2023, Council had approved an asset naming policy. A copy of this bylaw is attached. So staff did review the criteria in the policy, and I can confirm that Jamie fits well, very well actually, within this criteria. There was also a matrix rating system that is found in the asset naming policy that staff did complete as well. So those are kind of the updates at this point in time. So maybe what I'll do is I'll turn it back to the chair, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. DeRoche, for bringing this forward. Well, I'd just like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation in honor of Jamie Bramberger.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Yep, motion to accept, Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Purcell. Further comments, questions? You know, just from the chair. I mean, his name speaks for itself and speaks for the merit behind this request. So, yeah, I'll call the question, and I'm sure I know it's unanimous. So call the question. All in favor? Full support. Thank you. Good work. Thank you. That was a long wait for a short. Good night, Jordan. So we'll call the Treasurer Deputy Clerk, Ms. Lochte, up for the Ottawa River Transit Corporation operational policies.
Good evening and thank you. So I have a couple of reports tonight. The first one is on proposed operational policies for the new Ottawa River Transit service that will be launching in August. So based on feedback from Left Turn, Right Turn, the city's project management consultants and mobility transportation specialists, our transit operator, as well as through consultation with the transit committee, we do have a couple of draft policies proposed. So one is a passenger code of conduct to govern, how passengers, must be courteous and ensure that, we're operating a service that's safe and free of discrimination and harassment. We also have a policy on a cancellation policy. So in this sense, last minute, like late cancellations are no-shows for this new service will take rides away, likely from other users. So we do want to make sure that riders are accountable, that, if they've booked a trip they no longer need, that they freed up for somebody else to be able to use the service. So we are proposing a kind of 3 strikes you're out type scenario. So we don't propose a monetary penalty, more, trying to reach out and sort of educate users on the importance of canceling. Feedback I've had from the operator operating in other municipalities is that it's often the younger generation that just needs a little bit of familiarization and reminders to be responsible and cancel if you don't need your ride or something last minute comes up. And that typically takes care of the situation so that, you know, on the third strike, the city would be able to suspend somebody's user account. But, you know, often it doesn't get to that. And education is usually resolves the situation. But, you know, in certain cases where that doesn't work, that the city can suspend users' accounts, you know, if they're continually not showing up for the service. Of course, there's an appeals process, and it's proposed that the city's designated transit liaison kind of be the final authority on this matter. But of course, we would certainly take into consideration any, you know, special compassionate circumstances, you know, as that might occur in, you know, being unable to attend rides within the year. So again, this policy prioritizes education over punishment and ensures fairness and consistency. So that's the second policy that's being proposed. A question regarding the age of riders was also raised as being a policy the city should have. So again, in consideration of other municipalities' policies, it's recommended that children under the age of 12 can't travel alone on the service. They need a responsible adult to accompany them. But in that instance, they ride free as long as they're being accompanied by a paying adult. So again, this follows the recommendations of the transit operator to ensure there's appropriate supervision, like on the bus itself. And this, with these policies, we would add these to the website and include it in our frequently asked questions and in some of our communications to ensure that the new service is understood and these are well documented. I will say I have received a couple of suggestions. So the deputy mayor has provided some comments on an accessibility statement in reviewing the policy annually. And having a sort of a nice key policy summary and ensuring that if riders have security issues or staff concerns themselves, having a reporting process. So I will incorporate this, and as well, Councillor Purcell has raised the question about companions. So if a rider needs a companion for accessibility, if that could be addressed in the policy. So that is a requirement of the AODA that companions ride free. But we will be adding this to the policy as well, just so there's clarity. And I'm sure other things will come up, and this will be a working document as we go. But I did want to get committee's approval, at least of these initial policies. And then, you know, obviously as we move forward, might be tweaking them a little bit, but this would be sort of the start of the policies for the operation of this new transit service. So I'll open up the floor to any questions.
So we have Deputy Mayor, then we have Councillor Purcell.
So I just have a question before I make a motion. So can you go over the communication feedback from the public? It'll be after 6-month review, or is it a year? 6-month review, and it's adaptable and flexible, so the community will have an option via the website or the app to make suggestions, or?
So there will be a formal survey done at the 6-month mark of the after launch to get feedback from the community on the service and how it's going. But on the app itself, when you book a ride, after your ride, it'll ask you, you know, if you have any comments about your ride. So we will actively be collecting feedback, which apparently is very popular at the beginning of service, to get comments.
Yeah.
And we will, you know, try to be as flexible and as considerate, you know, as this is a new service and we do need to be, you know, fairly adaptive to the comments. So we will, of course, be bringing back anything that's pressing sooner than the 6 months. As we launch the new service. So that's certainly going to be a potential. And as well, we are looking to have the transit committee meet every 2 months formally to go over, you know, feedback from the service as well. So there will be lots of opportunities to amend as may be needed.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So it follow, thanks for bringing this forward, and it follows best practices from other municipalities, and plus the input of the consultant. So I want to make a motion that we accept the operational policies.
Do we have a seconder? Okay, seconded by Councillor Purcell, and a comment.
Yes, please. Thank you. First of all, I'd just like to thank the treasurer for attending the Accessibility Advisory Committee and, providing a presentation in regards to the new transit service. And I think there is a lot of the feedback has been incorporated in terms of some of the policies that you have presented here, so I appreciate that. And again, I know it's hard work standing up a new service, and I just wanted to commend you for your efforts. And I think, this is on the right track. I spoke to the treasurer today, and it is a living document, right? It's going to be kind of tweaked as we go along. So, I think we've got some good bones there, and I think it's really something that we can work from. So, yeah.
Councillor
Pretty happy to
Jackno?
see that.
Just a question in regards to your policy, and it's a different world today. What plans are implemented in case there's a serious interaction on the transit service? Does somebody have a cell phone, or is there a communication process? Is there one?
So there is communication with dispatch. So the transit, like the driver, does have access to a cell phone to be able to call either the police or dispatch for any, and dispatch can communicate, and a radio system as well.
Mayor?
Just two questions. So in the policies, and I'm just trying to figure this one out, but it's talking about a suspension. So there's the 3 strikes, and it's talking about 30-day suspension. But in a couple different places, it keeps referring to the designated City of Pembroke staff. Who is that? Because we don't have a transit committee or anything like that. I'm just wondering who it referred to in a couple different places.
So I presume right now that person is me. So I'm the staff lead for transit. So right now that would be myself.
Okay, just a comment from the chair. The children, the rates and the under 12 can't be on the transit by themselves, but they ride for free if they're with a paying adult. I know it's something we're going to look at later, but there's not too many seats on that bus. So if you have someone getting on with 3 or 4 children, that takes a lot of seats. So I'm thinking maybe later, if you find that that's an issue, especially on holidays, or special events going on in the city, then you might want to implement the first child free and then maybe a small charge for the others. But that's the only thing I see there. And okay, thank you. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Against? Okay, thank you very much. That is passed. Next item.
Okay, so the next item is an update on the new transit service and its impact on the Pembroke and area handy bus. So the city staff met with representatives of the Pembroke and area handy bus service in June to discuss some of the issues raised at the May 6th council meeting. So we had a very productive conversation where we talked about service hour parity, fare parity, and collaboration between the two services. So the handy bus, this discussion and this report was discussed with the handy bus board. And essentially what was agreed is that, service hour parity is recommended between the two services. So while their drivers are subject to a 3-hour minimum pay, they don't anticipate a significant increase in demand by increasing their advertised hours. The handy bus is an excellent service. They try to offer the best service they can to their clients. And, they do try to accommodate special requests outside of their published hours as it is, whenever they possibly can. So again, they don't foresee a significant change in their in demand in the new hours that would be advertised. And certainly, I have set up an initial meeting, intro meeting with MTS, between MTS and the handy bus, to discuss the possibility of collaboration. So where there might be issues and the handy bus might not be able to offer a service on an emergency ad hoc basis to see if that's something that MTS could kind of step in at the handy bus's request. So we will have further discussions on that particular item. But generally speaking, the handy bus didn't have an issue with offering service hour parity. Fare parity, again, the handy bus agreed that fare parity is recommended for rides that start and end within the boundaries of Pembroke. At this time, the township would continue to offer the $7 rate, and the city's base fare would be then reduced to the $5 ride. So it is recommended to keep the handy bus whole to offer top-up funding of the $2 fare differential. So the handy bus does maintain a detailed ridership records for annual reporting to CUDA. So it is certainly possible to have monthly tracking of, Pembroke rides versus Laurentian Valley rides, to be able to provide the Pembroke with actual data on how much top-up funding would be required, which the city could reimburse the handy bus on a quarterly basis. So again, the intention with operating and introducing this new transit service, at least in staff's opinion, was not to, jeopardize the handy bus's service in any way. So this is something that certainly staff are supportive of. From a budgetary point of view, there is sufficient budget in the 2025 budget to cover this top-up funding, until the end of this year, and then that would be incorporated into the budget for next year. Again, it's difficult to estimate the exact amount. If we look at over the past several years, ridership stats, we were looking at something that was slightly less than $10,000. If we look at just the past quarter for the handy bus, their numbers are quite strong, so we'd be looking at about $1,800 a month. Again, ridership will likely go up and down month to month, so we'd need some actual data to see the true dollar impact. But if we base it on the Q1 2025 ridership, then top up, it would be roughly an $1,800 a month top up required, again, to keep the handy bus whole. As raised by the city's accessibility committee, a joint communication brief will be developed between the two transit offers to explain what accessible services are available between the two services. And again, this is to provide service clarity. So we are proposing that this will be kind of circulated to the accessibility committee and to the handy bus as well, just so that we have, we're harmonious in how we're advertising our new service with the handy bus service. And again, just to make sure there's clarity with the different user groups in town in terms of what's allowed, what's not allowed, and how the two services work now that we're operating in the same territory. As I mentioned, we're going to continue discussions and potential collaborations in the event of emergencies. So we do plan to meet in the month of July, and it was recommended that we formally meet every 6 months just to discuss common issues and concerns between the two groups. And I guess in addition to this, we did, since we were in the same room, talk about the next vehicle replacement for the handy bus. So they do have a Ford vehicle that's due to be replaced over the next 2 years. We do expect, continued long lead times for vehicles. So it was recommended to develop an RFP for this vehicle's replacement this year for delivery either next year or the year after. And based on my current calculations, at the time of delivery, there would be sufficient funding in the gas tax reserve to fund this new purchase. So at the end of 2025, we're estimating a forecasted balance of $174,000. So that was talked about as well, and that's something that staff will work on with the handy bus. The procurement staff of the city will work with the handy bus on that particular initiative. So again, this follows the legal advice that the city received regarding the operation of the two services and supports community partnerships. And I will pass it back to the chair.
Thank you for that report. And since we do have the manager of the handy bus here, is there anything you'd like to say? I want to thank you for working with the city on this new transit project, and anything you want to say? Come on up, Mr. Callahan. I don't think it is.
Prepared to
No?
point of order. This is not part of the plan. Like, this is not procedural procedure.
He is a partner in this project, and I just want to thank him for his participation, and he's been, I know, okay, that's fine. We don't want to ruffle any feathers. People obviously are in a hurry to get home for the hockey game, so thank you very much on behalf of this committee. Thank you very much. I just want to remind people that I am the chair of this meeting. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean that, I can't invite a guest. That is part of this project. So, Deputy Mayor?
So first of all, I want to thank the Handy Bus volunteers and manager and committee. And I was talking to the Vice Chair, Marcel Mantha, and he said also the meeting went very well and very productive. And it's going to be exciting that we're going to have public transit for everyone in town. 3-year pilot for the public transit, then we have the Handy Bus, which has been operating for many years. So it's very important we meet the spirit of the legislation and work together, like we always said. And I like when I see joint communication strategy and service hour parity and collaboration. I really like those themes. So plus the intent of the new vehicle, which is very important to plan ahead. So I'd like to make a motion, we accept the recommendation that is listed in the report.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Purcell, and a further comment.
Yeah, thank you for the great work in terms of getting together and looking at the two systems and making sure that it meets the AOTA legislation. I think people maybe don't realize that, whenever you're implementing a service, it does have maybe potentially impacts in terms of some of the other services that we're currently delivering, and this is one of them. So in terms of meeting the intent of the AOTA legislation, that's the reason why we have the fare parity in terms of the $2 from 7 to 5. So I think that's a great idea, and I think $21,000, $21,600 annually. I guess my question maybe is to the treasurer, in terms of the contract is monthly currently with the Handy Bus. So will this amendment be put into that contract and it would still remain a monthly contract? And the reason I say that is just so I can clarify. We always said that we'd like to have a review of the services probably a year, into it, because it is a 3-year pilot project. So that way we can see, what the impacts are. Also, just to see how the two services can coexist, and maybe there's advantages in terms of working together more collaboratively down the road. I don't know, but that'll be a discussion of topic at the 1 year down the road. So I guess that's my only question. How is that going to be implemented?
Yes, the treasurer wants to respond.
Thank you. So through the chair, so what I envisioned is that we do a sort of an amendment to the bylaw that we have right now with the Handy Bus to include these items, and I can add into it that they would be reviewed in 1 year, if that's the direction of council. So this will be coming back as a formal amendment.
And I will second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a seconder. I'll call the question. All in favor? Against? Approved.
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote.
Is there a wish for me to reread the motion or just the recorded?
I don't think that's necessary.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Brian Abdallah,
Yay.
Councillor Ed Jacquino,
Yes.
Councillor Ian Keel is not present, Councillor Pat Lafreniere,
Yay.
Councillor Andrew Plummer,
Nay.
Councillor Troy Purcell,
Yay.
and Mayor Ron Gervais.
Yay.
Yeas have it, 5-1. Motion passes.
And the next item, again, we have our treasurer. Councillor Jackno?
Madam Chair, at this time, due to the intensity and the importance of items E and F, flexible working arrangements and human resource policies, I think that this should be discussed at a separate meeting. It's pretty intense, and it will affect the municipality for a long time to come, so I'm asking to have it tabled, if that is the wish of council.
So what, we should be motion to table.
You would have to have a seconder for that, and then council can vote, or a committee can vote.
So would you be prepared to put a motion, see if you have a seconder, please?
I am. I'm moving that we table this item.
Second.
Could I speak?
So this is item D and E. The budget timeline and flexible working
E
arrangements.
and F, sorry, E and F.
So not the next one, the next after this. We're doing the budget timeline now. Sorry, Mr. Unruh?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, so F is an actually information item, and there is no decision required tonight, so it is for information only. The flexible working arrangements policy, that has effect in regards to the collective agreement, and that's why we're bringing it forward in this meeting, because we would like to have it in effect July 1st, 2025, so that we could get the vacation in line for September 1st. That's all laid out in the report. So I'm just bringing those two forward, but certainly at council's direction.
And sorry, if I can add through you, Chair, the next meeting will be July 15th, because we are in one meeting for July and one meeting for August, respectively.
Okay, so we have a motion to table two items, but we've heard from staff. We have a seconder, so all in favor of the tabling of those items? Against? Defeated. So we will proceed. So 2026 budget timeline and strong mayor powers.
Okay, so thank you. So as creatures of the province, we have an obligation to follow the rules that are sort of handed down to us from the province. And currently, under the strong mayor's provisions that were just discussed, there is a new process for the budgets. Now, if the head of council doesn't introduce a budget by February 1st, then that responsibility passes to the head of to council itself. However, from the municipality's point of view, we don't want to wait that long to start a budget process, because that then does have a trickle-down effect into our ability to procure, particularly our large infrastructure projects. We try to pass the budget as early as we can, to make sure that we can undertake all the work that we contemplate in the particular budget year. So we don't want to wait until February 1st to start that process. So every municipality is handling this a little differently. My impression from the mayor is that he doesn't want to himself prepare the budget, which is a significant amount of work. But at the same time, as was mentioned, just because at this time a power doesn't want to be exercised, it doesn't mean that you can't change your mind later on. And this can change from council to council. So after the next election, certainly it might be a different situation. So from staff's point of view, it would make sense to integrate strong mayor powers into the existing process. And then it's up to the mayor at each stage to exercise or not to exercise, to provide feedback or not. But at least it's in there and the structure's there so that moving forward, we know what the timelines are, and that's been communicated clearly at the beginning of each process. And then, you know, we kind of take things as they come moving forward. So we have drafted a budget schedule, and we have added a new column called Strong Mayors. So at this time, we're proposing that we start our budget process in August like we always do. The changes really come towards the end of sort of the staff kind of input part of the process. So we are proposing to have a 2-week period where the mayor can review the staff prepared budget, ask questions, and propose changes, which would then be communicated to me via formal direction memo. Of course, if there are other things, the mayor is always welcome to talk to me at any time about the budget, but that we have a formal review process. And then again, the mayor can choose to have comments or not, choose to have things amended or not. What we're proposing to do is have a separate column to show like the staff presented any changes. And then based on the integration of any mayor feedback, that I would send out the package to council on behalf of the mayor saying this is the mayor's budget and this is when the timeline starts in terms of the budget process that's up there. So the budget process itself has a number of deadlines that are involved, and this was taken and was provided to me by our clerk who attended some training, and I thought this visual really explained the process really well, where under the current process, the head of council prepares a budget that's made available. Council has up to 30 days to review it and propose amendments or not. There's then a 10-day period where the head of council can veto the amendments or not, and then up to a 15-day period where council can override the veto. Now, in my memo, I presumed that it would be based on quorum, but as we heard today, that's not the case. It has to be a minimum of 5 for council to overturn a mayoral veto. So that part of my report, I would, we'll need to disregard that part at the end, because we were thinking that we might have to pay attention to who's in the room for the veto, whereas now it has to be 5 or more to overturn a mayoral veto. So so we are proposing to have a 2-week period of review. We would then take a week to integrate the mayor's feedback and issue budget packages to council December 2nd. And again, this would start the count of where the head of council proposes the budget, or day 1 of the strong mayor budget timeline. So we would then have the balance of the next 30 days to be the council amendment period. And we would look to, again, have 2 full days during the day of finance deliberations in between the 2 meetings in December, like we did the 2025 budget. We are proposing, just because we'd like to still have a public budget meeting, to shorten the mayoral veto period from 10 days to 5 days. If we're wrapping up deliberations on December 10th, I mean, theoretically, it's a lot of time in between that and January 6th to communicate a veto, or at least to gain a position. So we were thinking that would be acceptable, and we didn't hear anything to the contrary from the mayor. So then I would prepare the public budget presentation. We would hold a public budget meeting on January 13th. And then we would have a day 3. And as part of that day 3, we would talk about any public feedback, and we would also talk about any council override of mayoral vetoes, if that's applicable. If it's not applicable, then we don't discuss it. And then, so we would have that day 3 meeting in the evening of January 15th. But again, if we had to have another meeting, the 15-day period of the council override of the veto would end on January 21st. So on that day, following that date, the budget is deemed passed. So as a change in process, we no longer have to pass a formal budget bylaw. But I know some treasurers have communicated some dismay that we don't have something formal to document what the budget, like ending budget numbers were. So what I'm proposing is that I just take some of that language that's in the budget bylaw right now, and I would just put it as a whereas in the taxation, the tax rate bylaw, just so it's documented in the formal records of the city from year to year moving forward. So that's the draft budget presentation for discussion. And as the mayor has a role in this budget process now, perhaps we could have him chime in on his comments.
Mayor?
So thank you for a very detailed report. You know, for those members of council that have been here for a while, you'll recall that we used to do budgets and we would set them in June, if I'm not mistaken, which was just ludicrous. So we found a way to have a contingency fund and move the whole process up. Maybe we're not as up or advanced as some other municipalities like Ottawa, but nonetheless, we've come a long way, as they say, come a long way, baby. Certainly, in terms of the comments in it, it's accurately reflected in terms of discussions, because certainly there's communication with the treasurer, there's communication with the clerk and the CEO since all of this has been unfolding. So certainly, no, I don't want to be crunching numbers or doing all that lovely stuff. But I do, when it says status quo, I do appreciate the whole entire process of how the working papers go out. I know that all the different committees, chairs and vice chairs, meet with their committees so that they can have input, and then it feeds into the process. This isn't just something that one person or whoever is dreaming up. So I certainly appreciate the timeline. I appreciate all the work that you've done to try and amalgamate yet something else into already busy workload. So that's what I mean by it, is I do appreciate all the different steps and all the different feedback. I know when the chair and vice and myself as vice chair meet with director of operations, we have discussions about, yes, this makes sense, or why is staff, and it's a good input at that stage to know why it is that staff are wanting to do certain things. And so I do very much appreciate everything and how you've incorporated it. So I have no issue with it.
Councillor Purcell, and then I have a concern about the veto. So,
Thanks, Chair. That's exactly what I want to talk about in terms of the veto. So I kind of see it as gates, various different gates, because, I mean, I understand the 30-day period where we have the opportunity to review the budget and then make recommendations. So really, we know by January the 6th whether the mayor is going to veto any of the amendments that we're requesting, right? To me, that puts, everything beyond step 15 to different gates, because I will not sit here and debate a budget that I really looking at, with the strong mayor powers, when I could be sunning myself in Mexico or something like that, or doing something more valuable with my time. And it's true, because I don't think I would have any input, and we wouldn't be able to achieve, the opposition in terms of the veto. So I guess my question is to the mayor, does the mayor plan to use the strong mayor powers in terms of budget vetoing?
So,
If that's the case, then we need to build these gates in here, because I think there's going to be some discussion in regards to the dates below 15 and beyond. It'd be like a gate 1 and a gate 2. Gate 1 would be, no, the mayor is not using veto powers in regards to the budget, and then it would proceed as normal. If he does use the veto powers, I think you're going to see multiple councillors, I would think, would walk away and say, you own it. Why would I need to sit there and debate it if I'm not going to be responsible for the outcome? Just a comment. Mayor?
would you like to respond through the chair?
Thank you.
So as I've once said to, it was my FM that interviewed me, is that our council works well together in terms of provincial priorities, and so while I may not necessarily understand the connection between what the province is trying to do and what they've done, it's not necessarily, as has been said by a number of you, it's not just myself, it's any future mayors as well. So I don't know what the future brings. We did hear the presentation earlier that it can't even be delegated, so I don't know what it looks like or anything like that. And so if you build in the gates and everything else, that is what it is. Do I intentionally, I haven't even seen the budget. We haven't even started it because it's not even August. So I don't know if that answers your question. If what the, look, I don't know. I don't know if that answers it or not. I do appreciate, like, we function and have functioned as a collective every other budget, and like this last one, as you say, it's a good budget. It was tough, and it took all of us pulling together to try and figure out a way to make it happen. And yes, we didn't make everyone happy. I know we didn't make everyone happy in terms of what the percentage increase was and that sort of thing, but that's what we did, is we pulled together, and that's what I told MyFM, and that's what I've told everyone, is that we continue to try and work together and make things happen for the ratepayers.
And I think that's what I think maybe I'm looking for, and I would assume that other councillors will be looking at that, is to, just a commitment from you, Mayor, is in regards to that we're going to continue like we budgeted in the past, and to debate around the table so that we all have our say in the budget, and to do it in a meaningful way so we come out with a good outcome for our residents. And that, we build the team around, coming to consensus in terms of what we're presenting. But I just want to make sure that, do you plan on using the veto powers? If you're constructing the budget and you're giving direction in terms of the budget, I can't see why you would utilize the veto powers, right? So other than the amendments in terms of that 30-day period where maybe we come back and say, no, maybe we need to consider putting some dollars here or dollars there, or, and I guess you couldn't use it if it's a provincial priority, so, but I mean, if there's some other things that we want to include in the budget or take away from the budget, I just want to understand that process, because I think it really, there's a lot of question marks beyond 15. And I think people see it, but probably don't know how to articulate it.
Councillor Jackno?
Madam Chair, I think this whole system is creating an onerous mess. And I mean, if you look at council may override, the head of council's vetoes with a 2/3. So we could basically be sitting here all night based on some recommendations that the mayor's made and rediscussing them and rehashing them when, corporately before, we all came together and, we shot the breeze and we thought we'd do what was right. Now, if his worship decides, well, I think this is good, and council says, no, we don't, so let's discuss this now. So we're going to be here more than that time frame period. I mean, if we're not in agreement. So I find it onerous, and I don't know if it's going to work. I have a big question mark. And I mean, Councillor Fernier, you've been here a long time. Your worship, you've been here a long time. And I know you didn't answer the question directly because I don't think you know how to answer it until, we start moving. But if we start moving ahead and we all say, well, gee, his worship has proposed this. Well, 2/3 of us, or, more than that, don't like that. So we're going to talk about it now. So we'll be here forever. Comment,
So-
that's personal opinion.
Can I make my comment from the chair? Yeah. So last year during budget, there was a couple of councillors that weren't here for a few of the meetings because they had gone on vacations. And if that happens this year, anything that the mayor wants to veto is going to automatically go through because we have to have 5 here. I know years ago when I first came on council, there was a blackout period where council couldn't go on vacation during budgets, and that's just the way it was. It was set. I mean, unless we want to give the mayor full power to do what he wants, that has to come back in effect because we need 5 people here to stop those vetoes. So I'm just putting that out there. I mean, I agree. If we don't have 5 people here, we're powerless. to make sure that that doesn't happen. And just on a final note, because I know we're getting late, a final note, last year, if this would have been in place, some of the decisions that we're going ahead with this summer may not have happened, because they may have been vetoed last year during budgets, and we all know what I'm talking about. So that's the importance. Could have changed the whole trajectory of what we're talking about tonight. That's how important it is. If you think something's going to be there, if you're on side with the veto, well, then you want to be here to support the mayor. If you're not, you better show up, and there has to be 5. Anyway, if there's no further comments on this, we'll just move forward. Thank you. So, Mr. Unruh, flexible working arrangements?
Yeah, so the recommendation in front of you tonight is that the committee approve making the pilot project for flexible working arrangements for eligible City of Pembroke employees permanent, subject to annual review as outlined in this report. So just to remind Council, on July 1st of 2024, we entered a pilot project, or not pilot project, but a pilot process to introduce flexible working arrangements within the City of Pembroke. And a lot of it was stemming around retention and attraction of employees, as we were talking about, that it's very difficult to get individuals into the municipal field. And kind of parity with what we're also seeing in other public sectors, other municipalities, having similar programs, and also similar industries, CNL, the Canadian, or the Garrison Petawawa, and other major employees in the area. So the pilot that ran from July 1st and ends coming up June 30th is a hybrid arrangement, so working off-site for up to 2 days a week. Flex time, so it allows the employees to work the hours, but maybe start later and finish later. But there is some core hours that they must maintain, or a compressed work week. So i.e. the employee will work additional hours every day, and it goes over a 2-week period, and then they would get an additional day off. So just to provide you some stats, in regards to the working from home, so roughly we have 110 full-time employees. Of the 110 employees, 4 individuals have taken up the option to work from home. A couple of them are 2 days, and 1 individual is 1 day a week. Flexible hours, we have 1 individual of those 110 that is doing the flexible hours, and then we have 19 individuals within the City of Pembroke that is doing the compressed. So in regards to the information feedback that we got from the employees, certainly they were extremely happy with it. Even when we're recruiting new employees, that they certainly highlighted that that is one of the aspects that they looked at, or even was incentive for them to even apply for a position. In regards to managers and directors, again, they have seen happier employees. They saw no service disruptions. And anecdotally, I have nothing in regards to hard evidence to prove it, but certainly individuals had said that they had worked stronger and more production because of the flexible hours and the flexible work arrangements. So the proposal is, as was mentioned in the recommendation, that we make this pilot project now a permanent, and subject to annual review, and just open up to any questions.
Councillor Purcell?
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the CEO. I had the opportunity to work a flexible work arrangement for about a year and a half prior to my retirement. I can tell you this, and this is just stats from CNL because I was part of the group that was monitoring in terms of flexible work arrangements. It actually increased our productivity. And the reason for that is employees felt respected. You don't need a supervisor or a manager peering over you to get done your work deliverables. You know what you have to do. Your performance appraisals and your performance reviews work with the individual, and they know the work that's actually being accomplished, right? And they know how much effort is required to get the job done. I do think it's respectful. I do think it's appropriate that we move forward. You know, people's situations change. Maybe it's a daycare issue in terms of getting the individual to daycare so they can flex their hours and come in a little bit later, stay a little bit later. That meets their schedule, but it's individualized, and I think we got to start thinking about the individual. We just started talking about, you know, the impacts that it has in regards to strong mayor powers in regards to municipal employees. This is another good opportunity to kind of say, how do we attract those individuals and maintain the quality workers that we have right now? And not everybody can have flexible work arrangements. You can't have the gentleman that's working in operations, you know, working from home when his duties are to, you know, to repair water mains and those kinds of things, right? That doesn't work. But in terms of the administrative tasks, I think it makes sense. Also, I know that we have some space constraints, right, in regards to this building, right? Housing individuals. It costs a lot of money to house individuals in terms of an office space. That means an extra parking spot that you may have to plow, maintain, you know. I think also it limits the distractions that you have in your day, because if you're walking by your office, oh, how was the Oilers game? Who won last night? It starts a conversation, it distracts the individual. Meanwhile, you know, for me, and I'm talking my experience, I had a nice working arrangement at home, and I could get my tasks done with very few interruptions. And my productivity actually skyrocketed because you didn't have those individuals that are walking by to say, hey, you know, hey, meet you at the water cooler, let's go into the break room and have a bite to eat or something along the lines, right? But the only thing I just caution on that, and I know Dave knows this 100%, is in terms of people's well-being, is, you know, having those check-ins with those individuals that are working long-term. But I see that you built it so that you actually come to the workplace for a couple of days per week. So I like that idea, because then I just worry about social isolation for some individuals as well. But I would recommend that we approve the pilot project from flexible working arrangements for the eligible City of Pembroke permanent, as detailed in this report. So I would move that.
Moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayor, comment?
I have a question and a comment for the CEO. Can you elaborate on the annual review? Is that per employee?
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, so the annual review would be done through the management team, but and it's done in regards to the overall program, but also in regards to the annual review of individual members of the staff. So, you know, just to elaborate on that, and I think a little bit more to what Councillor Purcell was saying, you know, it's not a right, it's a benefit. And so staff that are not eligible are individuals that are on probation, so that have just started with the City of Pembroke, individuals that are on performance improvement plans. They do not have that right for flexible. Individuals that are changing position and becoming familiar with a new position, they would be temporarily taken off the program. So there are some checks and balances, both corporate-wide, but also in the individual basis. I think I quoted another CEO that said that individuals in this program, there are some people that enter, but not everyone graduates. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jackno?
No, I want to have a comment now. I had a question and I have a comment.
Okay.
So we all sat down a few years ago to go over the city strategy, long-term strategy here. Number one was employee engagement and retention. That was the number one thing we came up with, or, the top 5.
Excuse me, Councillor,
Yes.
would you just face the
Yeah,
center
I
and
was just
address
reading
through the
the
chair?
strategy over there,
that's
yeah,
fine.
no problem. No disrespect. I had to put my glasses on to read that. So that was the number one thing we came up with, employee retention and morale. And in traveling to the different conferences, municipal conferences every year, you speak to CEOs and treasurers of the municipalities, and it's very tough to maintain and attract qualified professional city municipal employees. And this policy is in keeping with the 21st century, flex hours, compressed work week. And as Councillor Purcell said in the CEO, we see that the 2 larger employees, CNL and the Garrison, and the benefit it has to that. So I think it's a good program. The pilot went well, so I fully support it and second the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Jackno?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Originally, when I wanted to have it tabled was for the purposes of, I think it's such an important issue, and I'm not disrespecting staff and their proposal to us to accept it. I just thought that it's so intense, and it really affects not only the staff, but our supervisors, who are the taxpayers, Are they satisfied with the flex hours? I mean, we can be satisfied with it. Staff can be satisfied with it because it gives them the ability to maybe have that extra day at home or whatever where, maybe perhaps they didn't have that before and yet still produce the same result from their perspective. But what about from the taxpayer's perspective? So that was my reason. I know we're getting close to the discussions with the collective agreement, et cetera. But I thought a special meeting would have been perhaps more appropriate to really focus in on, that 27-page report that we could all discuss. But obviously, council, has decided against that, so I respect that. But I would like to call a recorded vote on this particular issue when it comes forward. Thank you.
Mayor?
So in response to what's being said, let me say this, that in terms of who are our supervisors, I think is what you said, being the ratepayers. So at the end of the day, throughout the last year, if I was concerned about something, not that a ratepayer said I have an issue with X, Y, or Z, but if I had an issue, yes, I would make inquiries, and I think that's our job, is that, number one, are we satisfied, and then number 2, if a ratepayer gives us cause for concern or what have you, that they think that there's an issue, then again to run that up the pipeline. In terms of ratepayers, if what they see is the frontline staff, which I don't see participating in the program or graduating, I think is what you called it, I don't see them being impacted by that. I know that in the course of the year that if I was concerned about being able to get in touch with individuals that I would normally contact, as we would all contact in terms of upper level management, if you will, and the CEO and clerk, that I would have a conversation with the CEO, because I think that's what our job is okay, so this is what my concern is. I'll voice another one, I'm trying to figure out how to delicately say it, is concern about ensuring employee safety, I'll say it that way. And so that you wouldn't have a lot of individuals participating at the same time, putting other individuals in safety concerns, let's put it that way. And again, raised that, talked about it, made sure that that's not an issue. So anything that I perceived as an issue, I did what I think our job is to go to who we're supposed to go to and say, this is what my concern is. Did you think about it? Yes, good stuff. And so I don't have any issue with it. And if it promotes productivity and just having the employees, being more productive and happy and wanting to stay with the corporation, then I don't have an issue with it. But I think going forward, and I think that's what's been built into this process, if you perceive or believe that there's an issue in terms of and sometimes it's just perception. It's like, well, geez, that employee always seems to be gone. Well, then you raise it with the person that you need to raise it with. You take it to the CEO and say, is this true? Is this, or I'm not getting the response in the timeline I need and it's urgent. But I got to tell you, anytime I've ever needed an answer, if I reach out to either of these two, I get my answer. So I have no issue with any of this.
Okay, I'll just make a quick comment. I know last year when it started, I was trying to reach a few people, and I was then finding out, oh no, today's their flex day, or today they're not. So I think as long as it's communicated to me as a counselor on when those managers that I work with on my committees are off, then I'd appreciate that, because then I'm not, wondering why didn't they call me back, or so. But I do support this. Thank you very much. We have a motion and we have a seconder. I believe it was
Recorded vote,
a
Madam Chair.
recorded vote. Okay.
Would council want me to reread the resolution? Oh, okay.
I don't believe so.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Brian Abdallah,
Yes.
Councillor Ed Jacquino,
At this time, I abstain.
so that's a no. Councillor Ian Keel is absent. Councillor Pat Lafreniere,
Yay.
Councillor Andrew Plummer,
Yay.
Councillor Troy Purcell,
Yay.
Mayor Ron Gervais.
Yay.
So the motion carries 5-1. Motion carries.
Okay, lands to retain for city use. Oh, no, sorry. Human resources policies and procedures updates. Mr. Unruh?
Yeah. So there's lots of information in this in regards to the updates that we've done with respect to the policies and procedures. And that's why tonight that we bring it forward as a information item, and that we would then bring it back as requesting approval at the next meeting, so in 2 weeks from now. You can read it through. I'm not going to read through the Human Resources Coordinator has provided a good summary of what has been done in the different areas, and a lot of it is just housekeeping, keeping it up to date with the collective agreement, policies with respect to new legislation. And so again, I don't want to go through every single line item, but if there's anything that's specific that jumps out that people want clarification, or like I said, this is for information only this evening. So if anyone has any questions, please reach out ahead of time before the next meeting, and then we can get you the answer.
Thank you. Okay. So moving on to item G, we have Heather here. Lands to retain for city use in Transcan Corporate Park.
Thank you. So I'm just joined by our new investment attraction officer, Kathleen Barr. I know she hasn't had a chance to meet all of council yet, and as she will be dealing primarily with the industrial park moving forward, felt it was appropriate to bring her up for the presentation as well. So that's Kathleen with me here. So the recommendation tonight is that committee directs staff to hold approximately 11 acres of land in the Transcan Corporate Park next to the current fire hall and operations yard for future city growth and development. So this is coming about because of, with the city looking at future needs of our departments, as well as, gaining traction on inquiries in the industrial park, we feel that it's prudent to hold some lands for use. So what we have here is from the operations department, a need to grow. They've outgrown their current space, and so they're looking at future development of, for their yard and their offices, as well as the intent with the fire department being to eventually develop a training grounds, which my understanding is could be a regional training grounds and bring people into the area. So with that in mind, we're proposing this approximately 11 acres of land to maintain for city use. You'll see the drawing there. as well as then what the new map would look like as to what we would send out to potential developers or when we receive inquiries on the TransCan lands. So in terms, so that's our recommendation and the reasons why. Certainly council could also direct us to hold additional land, to hold less land, or not to hold any land. So open to your
Comments,
comments.
questions? See, Councillor Purcell.
I just concerned about or I just want to better understand in terms of the proposed use of that land, like expansion for the fire department. And I know that they're talking about a training facility, but then would it be relocating from the current position in terms of operations or current location to there, or is it to be a supplement to the existing? And they've already built the infrastructure, so I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, so my understanding from the Director of Operations is that currently operations has it's not properly housing its fleet, for example. Like there's a lot of outdoor storage where some things should be inside, and they've outgrown their office space as well. So they'd be looking for a new site for operations, and they have explored some other areas, but they wouldn't suit their needs based on other development that they're looking at for other infrastructure. So my understanding then would be like moving operations.
And the timeline for that, did he give you any indication?
It was not, an indication, no, it was not given.
Okay, just to potentially hold the lands, okay. I guess the other maybe for discussing lands is in the event that we are successful in terms of negotiating a proper location for a multiplex, that would impact the location or a location if we needed lands in that area. It's just that we haven't got there yet in terms of defining where the location is, but I just want to make sure that, you know, if we're talking about future lands in terms of holding off, I guess every decision comes to council anyway in regards to the land, so.
Yep.
Just wonder if there's any consideration there in terms of a blocked off area for future.
So
Go
if I may
ahead.
through the chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
This obviously these lands are not taking into consideration a potential future sportsplex. It's my understanding that the project management team is coming together with a report this fall. So I think at that time, then it could make sense for council to look at if there are other lands that it would want to retain. This does leave presently 13.3 acres in that center section, which may or may not suit the needs of what's decided for the sportsplex. So that is something that could be considered, but probably makes sense to wait until we have some more information on how that project is moving forward.
And how long will we hold those lands for? Like, is it determined time until council makes the decision in regards to, or maybe we want to release that hold and utilize those lands for, I don't know, Toyota wants to build a manufacturing plant out there. I don't know.
Well,
Right.
direction is sought here. I mean, we can put it on hold, we can take it off hold, so we're just
Yeah.
looking for direction tonight.
No, that's fine then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
hold it and then,
okay, so direction. Deputy Mayor?
Just to confirm, we still have the 28 acres the other side, correct? Available?
Yes, the
Okay.
certified site is still a part of the TransCan available as
Okay,
well.
so we can hold and unhold, so, yeah, I'll accept I recommend.
Okay, motion to support the recommendation, seconded, all in favor? Good. Okay. Thank you, Heather. And motion to adjourn this meeting, moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Purcell, all in favor. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Call this council meeting to order for June 17th. I would ask that everyone please take an opportunity to stand for an opening prayer or reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Are there any disclosed pecuniary interests in relation to this agenda of council? Seeing none. Moving into minutes, we have the approval of the minutes from council. Regular meeting of council was June 3rd, 2025. Moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? That is carried. We have adoption of minutes. 1, Parks and Recreation Committee, May 20th, 2025, and it's moved by Councillor Lafreniere and seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? That is carried. We're receiving 2 sets of minutes from local boards this evening. The first up is Pembroke Heritage Murals Committee, June 4th. Moved by Councillor Jacquinot and seconded by Councillor Plummer. Those in favor? That is carried. Last but not least, we have Police Services Board, January 30th, 2025. Adoption is moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere. Those in favor? That is carried. There's no delegations or presentations this evening. Nothing arising from that. No staff or committee reports, bringing us to proclamations. We have 2 proclamations this evening. Okay. So the first up is National Indigenous Peoples Day. So I do hereby declare June 21st, 2025 as National Indigenous Peoples Day in the City of Pembroke. Whereas the Government of Canada acknowledges June as National Indigenous History Month and June 21st as National Indigenous Peoples Day as a way to honor the history, heritage, and diversity of Indigenous peoples in Canada, as well as to recognize the strength of the present-day Indigenous communities. And whereas the Indigenous peoples of Canada have made and continue to make valuable contributions to Canadian society, and it is considered appropriate that there be, in each year, a day to mark and celebrate these contributions and to recognize the different cultures of Indigenous peoples of Canada. And whereas National Indigenous Peoples Day is a wonderful opportunity to become better acquainted with the cultural diversity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, and to discover the unique accomplishments of Indigenous peoples. And whereas the City of Pembroke is a community that celebrates its cultural diversity. As indicated, June 21st is National Indigenous Peoples Day. This is an opportunity for everyone to celebrate the cultural richness and contributions of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I encourage all our residents to celebrate and embrace our rich cultural fabric. There will be teachings, music, and activities on June 21st at the Pembroke Waterfront Amphitheatre, organized by the, and forgive me if I mispronounce it, Waikiki Lodge, from 10 till 3. So therefore, be it resolved that I, Ron Jerva, Mayor of the City of Pembroke, do hereby proclaim June 21st, 2025 as National Indigenous Peoples Day in the City of Pembroke, and urge all residents to take this opportunity to celebrate and recognize the contributions of the Indigenous peoples to our communities and country. The second proclamation this evening is that I do hereby declare June 30th, 2025 as Indigenous Survivors Day, National Blanket Ceremony Day in the City of Pembroke. Whereas the City of Pembroke recognizes the historical injustices endured by Indigenous peoples due to colonization, forced assimilation, and systemic injustices. And whereas Indigenous Survivors Day, also known as National Blanket Celebration Day on June 30th, provides an opportunity to acknowledge the resilience, strength, and cultural heritage of Indigenous communities who have persevered through historical traumas, providing a time of recognition and remembrance. And whereas designating June 30th as Indigenous Survivors Day, National Blanket Ceremony Day, creates a platform for healing, education, and dialogue, raising awareness about the unique struggles faced by Indigenous peoples. And whereas this observance serves as a solemn reminder for the ongoing challenges faced by Indigenous communities and highlights the importance of supporting their cultural heritage and promoting understanding. And whereas by implementing Indigenous Survivors Day, also known as National Blanket Ceremony Day on June 30th, the City of Pembroke demonstrates its commitment to honoring Indigenous survivors, promoting healing, and building a more equitable and inclusive city. So as indicated, June 30th is an opportunity to acknowledge resilience, strength, and cultural heritage of Indigenous communities who have persevered through historical dramas, providing a time of recognition and remembrance. So therefore, I, Ron Jerva, Mayor of the City of Pembroke, do hereby proclaim June 30th as Indigenous Survivors Day, also known as National Blanket Ceremony Day in the City of Pembroke. This brings us to bylaws. First up, we have 2025-53. Councillor Lafreniere.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that bylaw 2025-53, a bylaw to appoint municipal bylaw enforcement officers to enforce parking provisions in the parking lots associated with 58 Pembroke Street West, 120 Lake Street, 227 Lake Street, and 185 Prince Street be adopted and passed. And further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. There you go.
Moved by Councillor Lafreniere, seconded by Councillor Purcell. The bylaw 2025-53, a bylaw to appoint municipal bylaw enforcement officers to enforce parking provisions in the parking lots associated with 58 Pembroke Street West, 120 Lake Street, 227 Lake Street, and 185 Prince Street be adopted and passed, and further the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Lafreniere?
This is pretty self-explanatory. This was covered in previous meetings.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Next is 2025-54. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lafreniere that bylaw 2025-54, a bylaw to amend the bylaw 2020-05, the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed. And further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor, clerk, and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Purcell and seconded by Councillor Lafreniere that bylaw 2025-54, bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Purcell?
Thank you, Mayor. Just that all it does is just allows us to identify a specific use for 286 Elizabeth Street to utilize a art gallery.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next is 2025-55, adopt flex working arrangement. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Pat Lafreniere, that bylaw 2025-55, a bylaw to adopt a flexible work arrangement policy for the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Thank you. You're welcome.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Lafreniere that bylaw 2025-55, a bylaw to adopt flexible work arrangement policy for the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Deputy Mayor.
Your Worship, this was brought up earlier tonight, staff report by our CAO, Mr. Unruh. This is a pilot project that has been going on for a year, compressed work week, flex time, and it's been very successful, and there's approximately 22% of the 110 employees that we have enrolled in the program. Morale is good. They really like it. It's done in many municipalities in Canada, CNL, Garrison, Petawawa. So this is a permanent project, flex time, with annual review. Thank you.
Call the question. Those in favor? Against? Carried. Next is 2025-56, transfer payment agreement. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Your Worship. With myself, second by Councillor Jackson, the bylaw 2025-56, a bylaw to authorize the entering into a transfer payment agreement with the Connecting Links program between His Majesty the King in right of the Province of Ontario and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Giacono, the bylaw 2025-56, a bylaw to authorize the entering into of a transfer payment agreement for the Connecting Links program between His Majesty the King and Right of the Province of Ontario and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you. So a good news story here. The Operations Department submitted an application to the Connecting Links program for rehabilitation and resurfacing a portion of Highway 41/148 connecting link from McKay Street southerly to Highway 41. The city was successful in securing $3 million towards the project and the transfer payment agreement that has been provided by the province for signing. This project was included in the 2025 budget and presented as part of a budget presentation on February 18th. Total net eligible project cost is $3,557,158. Provincial contribution is a maximum of $3 million or 84%. Project phased over 3 years, so 2025, 26, and 27. Phase 125 valued at $1,090,000. City's share of reserve with the city's share from reserves as approved in 2025 capital budget. Project scope includes a shave and pave the full road surface width, isolated concrete curb and gutter replacement and sidewalk replacements, replace existing unutilized pedestrian crossing with new signage crossing, drainage upgrades from Highway 41 to the outfall of the Muskrat River, repair and expansion of the joints of the Olympic Drive Bridge, and Phase 3 to be completed in conjunction with the water main rehabilitation of River Road. So this bylaw is presented for council this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Plummer. This is huge. As we've always said as a council, we certainly cannot on the backs of the ratepayers do all this different infrastructure work. So it's huge to see such a huge grant, 84% of what the cost is going to be. So this is extremely good news. So I'll call the question. Those in favor, and that is carried. Thank you. Now we're into motions. First is Resolution 25-6-20, Community Improvement Plan. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of Council, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Plummer. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application from Angela Cadu and Sarah Chartrand, tenants of 96 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. The applicant must comply with grant guidelines of the Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant and will have 18 months to complete all work and submit receipts in order to receive the grant. The grant total awarded to this applicant is $386.70, and awaiting your signature, Your Worship.
So moved by Councillor Giacono and seconded by Councillor Plummer. Be it resolved, the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application for Angela Cadu and Sarah Chartrand, tenants of 96 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. The applicant must comply with grant guidelines of the Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant and will have 18 months to complete the work, submit receipts in order to receive the grant, totaling $386.70. Do you have any comments, Councillor Giacono?
Yes, Your Worship. Again, we're trying to maintain our historic facade of our beautiful older city, and we'll be celebrating 200 years very shortly. And I think it's very important, and important for the tourist trade as well, that when people drive here, they see our municipality through different eyes. We drive up and down the main street every day. We take it for granted. But if you really take a look, there's some tremendous architecture, and this will help this business, of course, to prosper. Thank you, Your Worship, members of council.
Thank you. And it's nice to see individuals taking advantage of the community improvement plan, because for a little while there was a lull. In any event, call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Brings us to Resolution 25-0621, Councillor Purcell, Community Improvement Plan.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Fernier. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application Nick Potvin, owner of 128 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. The applicant must comply with grant guidelines of the Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant and will have 18 months to complete all work and submit receipts in order to receive this grant. The grant total awarded of this applicant is $5,475. Thank you.
Moved by Councilor Purcell and seconded by Councilor Lefreniere. Be it resolved, the corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application for Nick Potvin, owner of 126 to 128 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Heritage Facade Improvement Grant. And the applicant must comply with grant guidelines of the Downtown Heritage Improvement Grant and will have 18 months to complete this said work, submit receipts with an amount totaling $5,475. Councilor Purcell?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just the resolution speaks to the Community Improvement Plan application approved by the committee on May the 6th. It's for the facade improvement work in the downtown core at 126, 128 Pembroke Street West, where the owner will be installing a new door and a new window on 2 commercial units. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Last motion for this evening is 25-06-22 regarding Municipal Housing and Infrastructure Program. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Giacono. Be it resolved, the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approved the submission of the joint application with the Township of Leonardton Valley to the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program. Health and Safety Water Stream for the expansion of Quarry Road Water Reserve, new trunk water main, and the planning and design of a new water tower.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Plummer and seconded by Councillor Giacono. Be it resolved, the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approved the submission of the joint application with the Township of Laurentian Valley to the Municipal Housing and Infrastructure Program, Health and Safety Water Stream for the expansion of Quarry Road Water Reservoir, new trunk water main, and the planning and design of a new water tower. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, Mr. Lewis is not here tonight, obviously to present earlier, so I have a good description of what this is. It is a couple pages, but I think it's worth note reading because it's so important for our joint communities. So the Operations Department is working with submission for a joint application with the Partnership of Laurentian Valley for funding under Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program for Health and Safety Water Stream. The resolution is support of the application. The program is not a commitment to a funding amount, as it would be a transfer payment agreements that would be provided for signing should the application be successful. This application is an application-based program. The aim of the program is to focus on the application to protect the communities by investing in development, rehabilitation, expansion of core water, and address critical health and safety infrastructure issues while maintaining the current housing stock. Eligible projects under the MHIP HSWS are cost shared between the province and the project recipients, with the province covering 73% of eligible expenditures. The remaining 27% must be provided by the recipients. In this case, a joint by the City of Pembroke and the Township of Laurentian Valley. Under this agreement, applicants may request a maximum provincial contribution of $30 million per partner, so it would be up to $60 million combined. Additional municipality, federal, and First National contributions, including reserves such as development charges, may be applied towards this required receipts share. The program was recently announced and has been an application close date of June 26, 2025. The project must start no later than June 30th of 2026 and must be completed by March 31st, 2029. The project must include a capital component and may also include pre-construction planning and design work. The project must protect, maintain housing units that are otherwise compromised by health and safety risk. Project can be standalone or a component of a large project and can a new construction, rehabilitation, repair, or expansion. The alignment of the giant grant scope and the construction with township or the consultation with township staff and application will focus on the expansion of the Quarry Road Reservoir and correct deficiencies in the fire flow requirements. Given the growth of residential development and the city's long-standing need to enhance water storage, it is critical to proceed while this funding opportunity is available. Construction of a new water tower was reviewed for this grant application. However, due to complexity and requirement permits and approvals, staff and consultants determined it would not be feasible to be the main focus of the program's timeline. The due diligence studies and design for the new tower will be incorporated into the grant application as part of a larger project. A trunk water main is required for redundancy, and should the existing feeder main to the water reserve fail, the trunk water main installation adjacent to the new residential developments coming online will be introduced in the grant application. An estimate of focus for the project is still being developed for inclusion of the application. However, in reasonable order, the magnitude of $15 to $25 million. If successful, the city and the township will share the cost based on volume usage within the drinking water systems. The city share would be funded using the combination of reserves, development charges, funding, debentures, and potential existing federal and provincial funds. I read this a resolution to support the funding application before council this evening.
Thank you.
I guess maybe a little clarity to that. So a lot of wording. Okay, so what basically what's happening is the Quarry Road Reservoir is a certain size. We're going to basically have an application to double the size of that, so we're going to have a lot more capacity. It's building a trunk line that's going to go down Quarry Road, connect to Dieuville, and then eventually connect down to Laurentian Valley, and I'm thinking Robinson Lane. So that ties in both communities. There's a lot of big development coming up just on our border. So we have one of the water plants, so we are going to sell them water. So we need to make sure we have the redundancy and capacity to do that. So this project is going to allow us to do that, and also is going to give us the design work and planning for a new water tower that eventually is going to have to be built in Pembroke, because our current water tower has reached its capacity, and we all know there are pressure issues around the city. So with the construction of a new water tower in the future, this will lay the groundwork to have that happen sooner than later.
Okay, thank you.
Guys.
So we'll call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Great. No correspondence this evening. In terms of the mayor's report, good evening, everyone. I'm bringing forward my mayor's report this time. On June 4th, I had the pleasure of joining CEO Sabine Mersman, Mayor Service, Mayor Bennett, Mayor Nicholson, and this time we hosted the Ottawa University medical students. Similar to the Queen's University students, the Ottawa University students met with Pembroke physicians as they furthered their career aspirations. They had a real good week, and I'm hopeful that some of them will return to this area to practice in a few years. On June 6th, I attended the BGC anniversary at Wesley United Church, where MPP Deneau and I were provided a tour of the facility and provided a great look at their organization, and he even had me in a bouncy kingdom, so well done. June 12th, I had the pleasure of attending Edward Jones here in Pembroke together with staff. Edward Jones is celebrating 30 years in business. I met with John Bernacki and his mother Agnes Bernacki, who was the previous owner of that business. This is truly a great accomplishment, and a thank you to all the businesses here in the heart of the Ottawa Valley and how welcoming our community is. It was a great meeting, a great opportunity to talk to them and find out what they like about doing business in Pembroke, and so kudos to for staff for setting that up. June 13th, I had the pleasure of attending Algonquin College Waterfront Convocation. This event was extra special as my daughter Kay joined her colleagues graduating as a registered nurse. So well done to all the graduates, and very proud of my daughter. As always, stay safe and be kind to one another. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing none. Councillor updates. Councillor Lafreniere.
As you know, I read poems every week, and it's the highlight sometimes of the very gruesome evening. And they're from the grade 5 students at Cathedral Separate School in Pembroke. I'm going to read two very quick ones because I still have lots, but you know we only have 2 meetings in the summer. So this one's called Riverside, and it's by McGeezy. I see the tire swing, regular swings, teeter-totter, and the splash pad. I was sad because the splash pad was out of water. I touch the sand at the playground and the water at the splash pad with my hands and feet. I take a seat on the hot sand, and I will look at the clouds. I can smell the delicious fries and poutine from the chip truck. I had some luck one day when I went to the chip truck because the fries were only $1. I'm always grateful and happy while I'm at Riverside Park spending time with my family. One day I was napping because I did so many activities with my family. I can taste all the different flavors of the freezies. One day, instead of getting freezies for my family, I got them cheesies instead. And a real quick different one that's actually says Jeremiah Jerva, so I'm going to read this one personally to you. I love how the trees ruffle in the wind, making a calming sound. The boardwalk at the marina is the most beautiful place. With the walkway in the forest and the view of the river, I love the boat launch and how you can watch boats sailing into the river. I love downtown with all the stores and murals. All the people in Pembroke are kind, loving, helpful, and considerate. What makes Pembroke special is the murals downtown. Did you know that the first 5 murals were painted in 1990. That's 35 years ago. And they were painted by national artists. I learned that in Pembroke. So it's nice to see our youth so excited. So thank you.
Thank you, a very positive contribution. Any other councillor updates? Councillor Giacono?
Your Worship, members of council, just on the mural note, the mural committee continues to work very hard. I'd like to thank Pamela Dempsey, Jane Keelman, Dennis Corrigan, and I'm the rep on the committee. I know how hard they work. Presently, one of the murals, the Champlain Trail, is being redone. It's been cordoned off, so you may want to take a look at the work. It's faded due to intense sunlight, etc., etc. So take a peek. And the artist that's doing it is a local artist, Mr. Jones from Petawawa, Jeff Jones, very artistic. He did the last one, The Great Fire of Pembroke, and he does it not only for the small stipend that he gets, but out of a labor of love because of loving our community. And he said that to me, in an email. He said, he's worked all over Canada, but he's back here living in Petawawa with, I believe, his dad, and he's takes on these projects. So we're very happy to have him. As well, Your Worship, I had the opportunity to represent council at a funeral service for Lou Cluett, who was a retired police officer. Chief Purvis from the Pembroke Police Service was there, as well as some other former compatriots of his. Lou was an exceptional police officer. He was well respected in the community and by all his fellow officers. So greatest condolences to his family and friends. He was a great contributor. As well, last Thursday I had the opportunity to attend the Renfrew County Housing Corporation meeting for their annual report. A lot's happened. I'm not going to repeat everything that's in there. It's posted online. I also had the pleasure to represent folks on the Health Committee. The meeting started around 11 o'clock and didn't get out of there until 4:30. So if anybody would like, questions answered, etc., you can ask me if I can remember, or it's online. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Purcell?
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Jackno for attending the Health Committee meeting on my behalf. There was a bit of a conflict that day, and I had the pleasure of attending the Ottawa Valley Ontario Health Team. It was a morning for frontline workers, for partners to connect with, learn more opportunities about the current landscape of services in Renfrew County when it comes to mental health, addictions, and substance use. So to provide just a basic overview, we received the Regional Mental Health and Addiction Substance Use Providers panel. There was discussions and the question and answers. There was also some local discussions in regards to anti-stigma initiatives from frontline staff and networking across various different health and social services with a community fair and also local resources. There was a keynote speaker. His name was Mr. Sean Fisk, and he was from CAPSA, and he's a nationally recognized substance use, stigma, and compassionate care expert with over 20 years of experience, accessing and navigating the systems of his own substance use, health, and mental health needs. It was a very engaging speaker and talked a lot about dignity and providing dignity to interactions when we have interactions with people with substance use. Speaking in terms of overdose, instead of using that language, we use it's a medical emergency. So just to start talking and using that, and it actually builds dignity in terms of how we prevent and reduce discrimination and support individuals that are facing these huge challenges in terms of overcoming their health and addiction issues. So it was well attended. I think there's about 200 plus service providers in terms of individuals from various different organizations that had attended. So I do want a big shout out to the Ontario Ottawa Valley Health Team for organizing that. I also just wanted to communicate, just the level of effort that this council various different committees, the drug strategy, homeless, initiatives that people don't see behind the scenes is that, there's a lot of people that are impacted, and we're finally getting to a point where there's resources available to help people. So we're not there yet in terms of what we'd like to see, but, with the warming center now becoming an intake center, and then with the Heart Hub, we have the transitional beds at Care4 that are opening right now. So there's some really good opportunities, and I think that's one of the things that I took away is that people see a focus in terms of the support for individuals that are addressing homelessness or substance use. So, we just need to continue to be diligent and to work with the various different organizations so that we can, better their lives and also, improve the experience in terms of community for everyone. So, thank you again for allowing me that opportunity to participate.
Glad to do it.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few things tonight. On behalf of the Recreation Committee, if the residents listening, go to pembroke.ca/Canada Day. There's activities at Riverside Park. There's a dinner. There's a show. It's called Canada A, I believe, and there'll be free barbecue while quantities last, starting at 5:30. The show's at 6:30. RJ Inflatable Castle will be there. The one that the mayor was in. Is that the one? And then we also have there's a movie. A family movie at nightfall, and the next day the festivities begin at the waterfront at noon, and all the details are there. There'll be vendors and activities all day till 4. Then it moves back to Riverside Park, so it's going to be just as good as it was last year. The night markets start July 4th. It's spearheaded by Krista Cleese at the Farmers Market. Every Friday in July and August, there's vendors and music and entertainment. That was a popular destination event last year. Randy Peterson and Tanner Hogan from the Colony Skateboard Shop, in conjunction with the City of Pembroke, are sponsoring the Go Skate Day at the skateboard park this Saturday, beginning at noon till 3. There'll be refreshments and demos, and then there are 2 bands will be playing at 5 o'clock till 7. So that's going to be a lot of fun down there. My wife and I participated in the Krista Johnson Memorial Run on June 8th. I brought greetings from the city, and we want to acknowledge Krista's parents who continue to organize the run with many volunteers. I think they raised around $30,000 in the memory of Krista Johnson, who believed in helping the youth, especially the disadvantaged. And it was so wonderful to see all the young kids, all the families out at Riverside Park. And all proceeds go to the Krista Johnson Wellness Center inside the Phoenix Center. Farmers Market Father's Day last Saturday was phenomenal. They have a new executive. There's lots of energy, a good vibe, as was in the past. And we want to thank Wheels of the Valley for the car show. And we want to thank all the volunteers down there. And we want to also, I couldn't go to the event because we were so busy at this farmers market, but Laurentian Valley, our friends in Laurentian Valley, celebrated 25 years recently, and we want to wish them well also. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any other updates? Deputy Mayor, I understand you have a motion to move into closed.
Motion to move into caucus meeting. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Troy Purcell, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per section 2392C of the Municipal Act regarding A, 252-270 Pembroke Street West, and B, Elmira Street surplus land.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Purcell that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality as per section 239-2C of the Municipal Act regarding 252 to 270 Pembroke Street West, as well as Elmira Street surplus lands. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll now move into a closed session.